way down. Okay. There we go. My bad, folks. All right. Hey, everybody. I have updated the sound equipment, so I'm trying to make sure you guys can hear me. So can I get some feedback in the chat as to whether or not the sound is right? Let me know if I need to turn the sound up or if I need to switch sources here. How are we sounding? Somebody say something. All right. Come on, chat. Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right. Okay. Why is nobody? Is my thing is delayed? Okay, sound is good. Perfect. Let me close this door. Okay. All right. So, hey everybody, happy Monday. I apologize because I don't like disappearing for long periods of time, but it has been a very, very, very eventful few weeks. Plus, it's summer. Summer's my favorite season. I did not get to enjoy the second half of my summer last year because remember, I got sick and lost like 20 pounds. And so I was down bad. So I said I was going to make sure I made up for it this year. So I just had a really great summer. And since the world's falling apart anyway, I was like, let me go ahead and have my moment for me, right? I don't want to sit and soak in terribleness all day. So kind of just been outside, to be honest. But in addition to that, there were other things happening. One of my kids, if you follow the podcast, which I know the episode was supposed to be out, just give me till the end of the week. One of the kids, if you know from the podcast, Angel actually was leaving for college, and there were some logistics happening at home which was going to prevent them from going. So we had to pull some strings, and then me and Ava from the podcast actually drove them all the way down to Old Dominion so they could start their freshman year. Sometimes with the kids, sometimes there are parents who just don't give their kids that support, and even though the child has done everything right, they applied, they got in, they have it paid for, they have the dorm room, they have the classes registered. There are some parents who sometimes just don't want to let go, and sometimes they will stand in their own child's way. So I had to be the bad guy with the parent because I'm like, this kid's going to school. So because that parent specifically is 0 for 3 when it comes to kids in school because they always find a way to sabotage the kids' opportunity. I need to close this door. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, with that being said, so that was a cool trip. It was kind of fun though. It reminded me that time really flies, and it is really cool to see the outcome of the work you put in. Because again, I had worked with her since she was in preschool, and so dropping her off to college. And the best thing is, there's other kids from the center that also go there, and one of their good friends literally lives down the hall in the dorm. So that was really cool. Do like a little road trip. It kind of gave us like flashbacks to when we still worked at the center because Ava's no longer there either. So that was cool. So I had that going. Anyway, the book club will pick back up on September 29th. I'll put the poll out on Wednesday for you guys to vote on the books, by the way. In addition to that, I'm just scrolling. I was at a wedding. That was really fun. Not mine, but it was a great time. And that's that. Anyway, let's get to some of these actual topics. I forgot to do my hellos. I'm sorry. Let me do like 5 quick people real quick, just because it's been a minute. What up, D. Bradford? Say, Calvin, how goes it, my friend? I have a case study paper due tomorrow, so I will catch the recap later. Enjoy your evening and great topics, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate it. Wavy, they'll say, Calvin is about to cook some folks. I am. Let's see. What up, Alan? Thank you, Marcel. Side note, the place I'm staying at in South Korea has pamphlet promoting tours to the DMZ, but if Rocket Man pops off, I'll be on TV talking about Mama, I Love You, P.O.P., holding it down. Can't see legally blind. Are you, if you're military, are you at Camp Casey? Because I know that's the military base that's right by the DMZ. Let's see. One more. What up, Melody and Sydney Bullock? So shout out to everybody who's here. I still don't like how this is looking. Let's lower this one more thing here. Okay, that looks better. All right. So anyway, moving on. Let me just say the theme for tonight and the word for tonight is discernment, because I think we have so many who really are lacking it. And I think the lack of discernment is how we've gotten here now with regard to just everything happening in the world. But before I get to the heavy stuff, let me just start with the VMAs. Let me start off light and ease my way into it. So the VMAs, I did not see the entire show. So I just kind of caught a few of the performances and some of the highlights. I was doing some other stuff. Like, I'm working on a bunch of stuff, man, and I'm effing tired, to be honest. Like, I'm drained. I don't think people realize I've had this channel for like 15 years. And as lovely as this channel is, it's also opened doors for additional opportunities. And so a lot of my time goes to those additional opportunities that I'm like busting my behind to make happen. So trying to do that and then balance a 9 to 5, and balance a social life. You just be tired sometimes. But anyway, I did catch the VMAs, what I could catch with it. If I had a favorite performance, I really enjoyed what Doja Cat provided. I think Doja Cat is one of the entertainers that gets it, right? She raps, she sings, she's what I call one of those kind of universally appealing entertainers that does a bit of everything. I like the song that she had. It's very 80s nostalgia, very Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis oriented. The performance was very Janet Jackson-esque, so I automatically like that. I enjoyed watching the dancing, the colors, the everything. I think in this current era, because I feel like there's so many who just don't have there's not a lot of motivation behind some of the art. A lot of people are going with the motions, and that's a reflection of just where the industry is, because really there's no money to be made in this. You literally have to stay on tour and sell merch. There's no money from streaming. People don't really buy albums anymore, unless you go to some places like Japan, where they still actually purchase physical albums in addition to streaming. Artists just really, I think, are burnt out. And so we have a handful of artists that are still holding on and still trying to give their all, right? I think that there are some that constantly do that, right? I think Kendrick does it. I think Beyonce clearly does it. Doja, I think, is one of those people. Lady Gaga. I think there's a bunch of SZA's kind of hanging in there doing it. Like, there's a bunch of artists that are still really trying to keep pushing the envelope. So when I saw that performance, I saw somebody who's still hungry for it, which is a good thing, because a lot of times once people get on, you're not as hungry as you used to be, right? You start cutting back and you start going with the motions, but I have yet to really see her go with the motions yet. And I like that there's always something different, right? I'm not heavily familiar with her music. Like, I know the singles and a few, deep cuts, but she always kind of keeps my eye. So I enjoyed that performance. The dancing was great again. I like the choreography, the staging, all that was really, really fun. Who else did I see? All right, Mariah Carey, we love. It's crazy she only has, that was, I think, her first VMA. And she received the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. And I did see some commentary where people were trying to say that, maybe she didn't deserve the Vanguard Award because they were trying to say her videos aren't iconic enough. I don't really think that's a fair assessment. I think Mariah has had a decent balance of videos. I think for the kind of music that she makes, a lot of her music didn't require some of what was done by some of the acts, like a Missy Elliott or a Busta or a Michael or a Janet or a Britney and all. But Mariah, to me, still has those videos that are still fun. Like, I think the Heartbreaker video, the original one, was a great shoot. As I told you, that's how I ended up burning the people's microwave, making the video. Left the popcorn in too long because the video premiered and almost set the people's house on fire. But no, I think that was like a $2 million video. And I thought the technology in that video was cool because she was, playing a double of herself with that Bianca character. And then they had the fight scene. I always thought that was a great video. I thought the Honey video was a really great video, both versions. Fantasy was a really, really fun video, and she directed it. Obsessed is a fun video. That's the one where she dresses up like Eminem. She has some nice videos. Shake It Off was fun. What else is in there? I'm trying to think. Mariah has a lot of singles. So the not Hero. What's the one where she dresses up like? Oh, I Still Believe. That's the one where she kind of dresses up like the 1940s military type stuff. I think Mariah has a nice catalog of videos. And in this era where videos aren't even prioritized anymore, and we have so many acts that give you the bare minimum with music videos because, again, the labels aren't paying for it. I think Mariah's videos represent an era that I think is closing off in the industry, where videos are no longer the main source when it comes to pushing albums. We've got lots of big name artists now that come out with projects and don't even drop videos. I know the Beyonce fans be pissed off, like, she ain't giving us no videos. It's been 2 albums, right? But anyway, as far as her performance, it's a Mariah performance that you're going to get after 2018. I'll take it. It's fine with me. I didn't have any expectations, so I was all right, cool. She sounded nice. She looked nice. That's what you're going to get. Mariah is going to get her steps in very easily. Somebody's going to hold her elbow and walk her to this side, and they're going to walk her back the other way, and they're going to walk her some more. She's going to stand, and she sing a song, and that's what you get. But yeah, I think Mariah, to me, falls in that category of artists who, at this point, what else do they have to prove? Yeah, they gave you the years of you know, because Mariah back in the day used to sprint across the stage. You know, when she was doing the big notes, she used to run this way and run that way. And, you know, she fanning the butterflies. She don't do all that no more. Ain't no more fanning the butterflies. The butterflies have died off, right? Ain't nothing to fan. She got that air in there crisp. There will not be any insects and stuff flying around. So it is what it is. I saw Ricky Martin. You know what was interesting? I thought he sang the song it was a very interesting way he sang it. I don't know if it just comes from being older and your voice changes. For some reason, he reminded me of the clip I saw of Gwen Stefani when she was doing Holla Back Girl a few weeks ago. And it kind of reminded me of like the parent that's trying to still be cool with the kids. I was like, what happened to Gwen? Ricky was cool though. It was fun, right? I remember those songs. I remember Living La Vida Loca was everywhere, forever and a day. Like you couldn't escape that song, Summer of '99, right? And mind you, that was right off the heels of Cup of Life, which was really huge. I was in Italy when Cup of Life came out, and them Italians played that every 5 minutes. No matter where you went, you couldn't escape Cup of Life, right? And I think the World Cup was the year before. Man, yeah. So that was a okay performance. I don't know a lot of his music. I just really know the songs he had from like '99 plus what was it, She Bangs. But yeah, there's that. I did not catch the Busta Rhymes performance. I didn't even know he was performing. First of all, I barely knew the VMAs were on. I just happened to be at a coffee shop and I started seeing everybody tweeting about it. I was like, oh shoot, that is tonight. So then I'm trying to rush to get home to catch the piece that I can catch. But as far as Busta Rhymes, he got on my nerves anyway when I saw him at the Missy show, right? That was the Missy Sierra Busta show because Busta was killing me because every song he would stop mid-song and then we had to get cussed out because we weren't appreciating the music enough. And so I like Busta, but I'm good on his performances. Plus, what pissed me off with that tour, right? You know how like the Missy tour had like, first of all, Missy, and I told you I reviewed this tour. Actually, I shouldn't have gone to the tour because I was still recovering from when I got sick last summer. So I was like, it was really hard for me to do anything physical without feeling like I have to like vomit, right? But I was like, I'm not missing this show because I had been waiting and my good friend had got us tickets and I was like, we are going. And so like, I was really excited to see Busta because when I think of Busta and Missy, to me, they're twins with like music videos. So I just knew Busta's set was going to have all the tricks and the gadgets and the this and the that. And Busta had a little screen and a DJ. I said, that's it? I mean, even Sierra had her own separate stage that moved and elevated and slid. And Sierra had like 10 dancers and all kind of stuff and pyro. And, you know, of course, Missy had a stage that was like a big giant transformer. The Missy stage did 15 different things. So Busta's cool, but I wasn't pressed to see the VMAs since that's what we got at the concert. I'm like, I'm sick and came to see your show. And that's what you gave us. All right. Anyway, I saw some Lady Gaga. Gaga's always cool with me. It was kind of dope that, you know, she still actually had her own concert that same night at Madison Square Garden. So I again, it reminds me of, again, that I did that Hunger. I also thought back to 99 of the VMAs when the Backstreet Boys were at the 99 VMAs, but they also had a concert date that night. So they had to leave right after their performance. Like it made me think of that. But there are some artists who really just be out there putting in the work and running everywhere, right? I think she also won Artist of the Year or something like that. So kudos to her. The Tate McRae girl, I wish I liked her music. And I'm not even trying to be shady or nothing, because I purposely don't talk about music as much anymore because fans do too much. But everything is there. I just don't like her songs. Like, I think she has great energy on stage. She has the showmanship. She pulls you in. Like, you know, you get glued. I first saw her perform on SNL one time. And I was like, okay, so she has the visuals down. I just don't like her music. I mean, I listened to the first album and I don't know. That's just me. Maybe it's also because I'm not her target audience. I just, but as far as the performance, I thought she was cool. Like whatever the foot, arm, leg thing they did, was they put her on top of the dancers. That was cool. I want to see her sound expand, right? People keep trying to call her the next Britney, and the critique I'd give to that, and maybe this is again generational, and again, I'm way older than the target demo that they're pushing her to. I just feel that Britney back in the day had songs that were better, way better, like still catchy 20 years later, where they come on, and even if Britney was like your guilty pleasure that you didn't want to tell anybody that you listened to, when them songs come on, you know all the words. Like, that's just me. And also, now listen, I know I'm nobody's Phil Perry, Tevin Campbell, Kevon Edmonds. Something about the choices they make with her vocals on the albums I don't like. Like, I know she can sing, but her voice is behind so much EQ and melodon. I don't know what she really sounds like. So it just kind of turns me off right off the bat. That's just me. But I think she's an amazing performer from what I've seen. And so I'd like to see, I want to see where she's going to go. Like she's somebody I would rather she still be in the industry and still have a shot versus some of these other people. So I want to see what direction she goes in. Right. That's just me. Let me see. So that's the VMAs. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty much, those are all the people I saw. I missed a whole bunch of other folks. I know there are other people there. I'm sorry. I didn't watch the whole thing, right? So forgive me. But those are the performances that I did see. All right, let me read a few comments and then we're going to talk about some real people stuff. Let's see here. Also, shout out to Raywin. It was his birthday not too long ago, so happy birthday to you. Let's see here. Somebody said, hey, hello, Calvin. Heard you say ODU. I'm in Norfolk. Where are you in the area? I'm in DC Metro, but some of actually a lot of my kids go to school in that whole 7 cities area, right? So I got some at NSU, I got some at Hampton, I got some at Old Dominion. So yeah, there's a few I got down there. I got one that's in the Navy, so they're at the Navy base down there. So yeah. Oh, okay. Marcel said, nah, he's just on vacation. All right, nice. I haven't been to Asia before. It's on the to-do list one of these days. I gotta mentally prepare to be on that long flight because that's at least 15 hours. Like, just thinking about it. Like, I get pissed anytime I just go home to Washington State and sit on the plane for 5 hours. Like the longest flight I ever had to be on was when we moved to Italy and came back. I think that was 8 hours, and at least I was little, so you sleep through the whole thing. And they put a movie on the plane. I think at the time they put Toy Story on that was back when everybody had to watch the same thing on the plane. The plane had those big screens, right? So everybody had to watch the same thing. So I remember flying to Italy, and it was like a military family type flight, and Toy Story was on. I remember that. All right, let's see. Somebody said, I only watched Doja Cat's performance. She was amazing. She had Kenny G come out. Oh, I forgot about that part. Yeah, which that was the other thing. I feel like the crowd didn't know who half of the people were. Like, I feel like a lot of these award shows are really starting to become geared towards millennials because I think award shows are becoming a thing of the past. And so like Gen Z will still watch, but they're not as locked in and tied to award shows. They'll watch for their favorite people, but because the industry has changed so much, award shows are not presented as a priority to them as it was for us. So, I don't fault them for not having an interest in award shows because, yeah. But I feel like a lot of the award shows, again, Steven Tyler was there from Aerosmith, and who else? A lot of people who are just a bit older. And I think they do that on purpose to kind of get those ratings because they know millennials and Gen X and even some of the baby boomers will still watch, if you can get them to watch. So, all right, let's see. Unless somebody said Honey is in my top 10. Of Mariah videos, yeah, I would say that. Now, if I'm talking Mariah songs, it's still a favorite of her up tempos. If you saw my Mariah So It Happened, I could not stop talking about Fantasy. Fantasy was always my go-to. Fantasy and Dream Lover are like a tie for me. Those are my two Mariah lead-off singles that I can never get enough of. And I personally prefer the original version of Fantasy to the remix. The remix is cool, but I always like the original because it was just a brighter song, right? The hook is catchy. When that song came out, you couldn't escape it. It was just there. But as far as songs like that are not singles that I really like from her, I think Baby Doll off of Honey's off of Butterfly, is a really nice one. Actually, a lot of the songs in that album. Breakdown is one of my favorites. I love that video too. I think that's the prettiest she ever was in a video, was the Breakdown video. Specifically the shot where she has like the tiara thing and all the bronzer and she's walking and she got the suit. I think she's gorgeous there. What else? Mariah sing songs. Yours off Charm Bracelet. Like the second half of Yours is my favorite part of that. Stay the Night. She has a lot of songs I like. Actually, I might have, I know who I'll be listening to on the way to work tomorrow. Anyway, sticking to my point, she has a great catalog. Okay. Julian Steve said Busta did well. He performed with Glorilla, Papoose, and Jordan Lucas. Okay, I do like Glorilla. So all right, Busta, I'll go back and watch the performance. Somebody said, I'm tired of Busta yelling about standing up. I think it's a trick to catch his breath. Look, at my show, he was going off on some girl in the front row because he was like, I just did the meet and greet with you and you sitting down in the front row. And I'm like, the girl's feet hurt. She got them stilettos on. That's why she's sitting down and you ain't on stage doing a whole lot. So she said she's going to wait for Missy. But yeah, let's see. Somebody said Toxic is still a bop. Britney had some fun songs. The Britney song I really liked back in the day. What? I liked Crazy, the video version. That had some knock to it. For her to be one of the white pop girls, she always had some extra little oomph to her, right? Crazy was the nice one. What else did Britney have that I like? Oh, off the Britney album, the song "That's Where You Take Me." I don't think it wasn't a single, but it was really. I like that song. That was a really nice one. It's real kind of cheesy bubble. Oh, Why Should I Be Sad off the Blackout album is a favorite. And when I still was like teaching dance, I really liked making routines to the song Toy Soldier and Get Naked, I Got a Plan. Those are fun. All right. Anyway, moving on. Back to my conversation on discernment. So like I said, I think in this current era we're living in, because there's just so much happening, I think what's really gotten so many of us here, and a lot of us are here as collateral. These are not the choices that we made. The 92% knew what they were doing. The 79% knew what they were doing. I wish that 79 was a little bit higher, but they knew what they were doing as well. But because of a lot of the choices that people have made over time, we all are now collateral to a lot of nonsense, right? And what's crazy is we also have a lot of people who are making the choice to remain delusional, all in the name of being free, all in the name of freedom. And we kind of saw these examples during COVID, right? Think back to COVID when it first kicked in, especially when we didn't even know a lot about it, when we still didn't know whether it was something that was surface level, where you got the germs from touching things, or if it was respiratory, like when we were in the early stages and folks were just dying left and right, and we really didn't know a whole lot. And we saw how people moved. We saw how even just the slightest request of being considerate of the people around you, how people turned that into an entire war and a vendetta, and people were showing up to the state government buildings with AR-15s, talking about people impeding on their freedoms and so on and so forth. And then it got to the point where people were like, because now we're watching people die. Like I always remember specifically, it starts off, the U.S. is kind of spared a little bit in the beginning. Remember, because there was a period where we thought only white folks got it. Remember, because there were no black people that had it yet. So for like 2 days, everybody was like, oh, it sounds like something we can't get, right? And you saw at that time, everybody was moving real cautiously. But I remember Italy specifically had like that first really, really bad surge once we started moving out of Asia towards West, right? And I remember seeing all the people saying, this is about to be the U.S. next week. Like, just give it, and boom, it came. But I say all that to say, what ended up happening is we watched just the vile aspect that people have with how they see others, where it went from, this is a serious issue, let's do everything we can to make sure that we don't transmit and spread, and we can kind of contain this and get it out of here, hopefully in the next few weeks to a few months, and hopefully before the summer comes, all will be well, to, well, it's not that bad if 20,000 died. Oh, 20,000 have died? Okay, well, it's not, we haven't got to 100,000 yet, so it's not, oh, dang, okay, well, it's not like we got 500,000 okay, well, okay, we got to 1 million. It's not that bad. Like, everybody just had every excuse because everybody wanted to be back outside, right? Even to the point where you had people saying, because the senior citizens were so vulnerable at the time, right? Well, our senior citizens, they're willing to die to open and reopen the economy for this country. I said, yeah, we're losing the plot here, right? And then as some people, may have caught it and didn't have it as bad as others, they kind of became less empathetic to the struggles of others and people who really could not afford to catch this. And so we watched something as serious as public health become heavily politicized, right? To the point where I think a lot of what happened during COVID has played into the role of where we're at now, even with, some of these movements that have picked up, even when you're kind of talking the whole red pill, tech bro, alpha male pipeline. What's Myron's Gaines thing? Fresh and fit, kind of all of that, where we watch empathy die, right? Nobody gives a F about anybody anymore. It's me, myself, and I, and you're a P word if you can't figure it out. Like, that's society, right? And so in addition to that, while all that was happening, and as everybody kind of threw their discernment down the drain because everybody was trying to prove a point, and everybody's like, we'll just die in order to be right? It's kind of like that scene out of Harlem Nights. He died young, but he wasn't no punk, right? We got there. So at the same time, those who've been in charge prioritize specifically white rage as the perfect distraction while they, begin to screw us over with everything else economically. And that's kind of where we're at now. And so we're now in this era of a bunch of white men specifically who are latching onto this idea that they are oppressed, right? And so their grievances and the things that they have issues with are what have taken priority politically. This is how we've gotten a lot of everything, whether it's CRT kickback, the DEI, this or the, all of that. Even with Elon and Doge and all that, it was presented as if when they always talk about fraud and waste, which they still have yet to find. And it's crazy because we watched Doge actually waste billions of dollars, right? To the point where we're actually worse off now than before as far as spending in debt and all that. But everything was presented as if, it's all these other groups of people that are making it hard for white men, right? And I did the DEI video, and I was talking about the college in, I want to say Iowa. Maybe it was Iowa or one of them states where there's not a lot of us. And the dean of students or the president of the university was doing that speech where she's like, we want to make our universities more comfortable for white men. I said, okay, this is the pattern. This is the segue of how this is going to start going. And you started watching the layers peel and peel and peel and peel. So I'm saying all this to say that you're watching things shift to more of a state of authoritarianism, right? Like that's what we're kind of getting to. And so that first segment is always latching on to the grievances of the demographic of people who feel the most pissed off, which right now are white men. And I don't know why, because side note, what I find so interesting, if we're talking about the people who love Orange Man and love watching people lose their rights and stuff, this specific demographic has gotten everything they've wanted since 2016. Everything, right? Affirmative action overturned. Roe v. Wade overturned. The House and the Senate are always run by Republicans pretty much, right? They have the Supreme Court. Orange Man is in office. J.D. Vance, if Orange Man croaks, is next in line. And J.D. Vance is doing everything in his power to be just as terrible as Trump. If you've noticed, the way that J.D. Vance moves is very different than 6 months ago. He's really trying to make sure that he can show that he can be just as vile as Orange Man, just in case Orange Man drops dead tomorrow, right? So it's like, y'all got everything you wanted, right? You have the government now weaponizing its power against the people. You're watching rights be stripped away, all kind of grants be yanked, and anything that benefits anybody who is not a white male is on the cutting board, right? Just chop, 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 chop. Television is being affected. TV shows are being canceled. Movie projects being gutted. Everything under the sun that they've asked for, they get. And it's so crazy because they're still mad every day, pissed off, rage. And it's like, don't you think maybe the things that you're mad at aren't the things that you think you're supposed to be mad at? You just are mad at the fact that, these people are screwing you over and you're, I don't know what to tell you. But it's interesting that this very demographic is still like just pissed off every day. I'm like, y'all should be happy, right? I'm just saying, like when Obama got in there and I was like 20 or whatever, the way everybody paraded in the streets and we just went on our, went about our business. Now, I will say I think people got comfortable during his era, but I don't remember there being the Obama cult that went and got on everybody's nerves and found their way on every social media page. And there was no Make America Obama land, right? There was no movement. There was no people identified as the candidate that they voted for and made that their identity. There was no such thing. That you didn't even hear the same kind of rhetoric between like liberals and conservatives. There was no own the libs or own the conservatives kind of thing during that time. But we've kind of watched all that happen now. So it's kind of interesting because I'm like, y'all got everything you wanted and you're still mad. So when do y'all get happy? And the answer is they never will be, because again, if we're really talking about it, I think because they made everybody else their enemy, they forgot about the reality of what is. And the reality is that those in charge, especially the super billionaires, those who are super wealthy, super rich, have prioritized screwing us all over while making us kind of fight each other. And that demographic just doesn't get it. They are convinced that if you can make everybody else suffer, somehow their life will get better. And it's not. So anyway, getting back to my main point, that was a segue. But, but when I say like the beginnings of how you have like an authoritarian regime, we've seen that where you paint other groups of people to be the problem. You paint other groups of people to be everything that's wrong with your life, right? You chose to not evolve. In the United States specifically, whiteness has always been prioritized. And rather than the citizens of the United States, who were the majority population in the United States, white folks specifically, instead of getting behind policy that would help to enhance the experience of all Americans, getting behind policy that would put money behind education, put money behind infrastructure, put money behind the wellness of everybody here, a lot of times white Americans often voted against it, right? Because they felt that somebody else getting a piece of something that they think is theirs means they're losing something. And so they'd rather just burn the whole thing down. And so now we're in burn it down mode, right? Stuff's getting burned down. And they forgot that they're inhaling the same smoke. They're in the same basement with the rest of us. It's just as hot for them, right? And so here we are. But you see that same pattern. So we saw it with Mussolini in Italy, right? He kind of used that same rhetoric where he started talking about different groups of people who were terrible to get a lot of people to rally behind him, right? We clearly saw it with Hitler, right? We saw it with Francisco Franco in Spain, right? That was another one there. We don't talk about him that much, but he was just as crazy too. But you had all these people who, again, find some kind of enemy to latch onto to kind of ease the grievances of pissed off groups of people. Orange Man and his crew decided the problem with the United States is it's everybody else except for white men. Everybody else is the problem. So here we are. So you paint everyone to be the enemy, but then the next step is you start to go after the institutions. You go after the scientists. You go after the historians. You go after the activists. You go after those in education. And while they're doing that, at the same time, you dismantle the safeguards that are there. So while we're watching a lot of these lunatics who are in office, RFK, and some of the other ones just do Lord knows what, at the same time, look at how much has been dismantled and is being dismantled each and every day here, right? Every day gets worse. And a lot of us are not feeling it yet because the end result of those cuts and grants and stuff, we're not even going to feel till next year because some of these grants and programs that have been cut, there's still, some of the funding will be grandfathered until the end of that term. Now, some of it has actually been yanked and cut. So think back to, Orange Man is in the Supreme Court every week going back and forth about different grants and stuff that they cut where they're like, well, you can't do that, right? And so anyway, I say all this to say, as they get rid of these safeguards, you put crazy loyalists into positions of power. You put people who sometimes, and I'm going to use the word expertise since that's what he wanted to use, and we're about to go to a clip. You put people in charge who don't know anything, but they're just loud, strong, and wrong. But because they're loud, strong, and wrong and seem angry enough, people will rally behind them and all of a sudden paint them to be, the example of what should be. So I want to go to this clip here. And again, our theme for tonight is discernment. So let me share my screen here. And I have specifically what I want to share. Let's pull this up. Okay, I have to share the whole screen. I'm being such a millennial. Millennials, like I said, we always got to narrate what we're doing. Also, please make sure when I share this that you guys can actually hear it, please, so we don't have a repeat it at one time when I was on here just reading. All right, here we go. Let's do the clip. Let me know how the sound is too, please.
My opinion, I always tell people, is irrelevant. We need to stop trusting the experts, right? We were told at the beginning of COVID, don't look at any data yourself, don't do any investigation yourself, just trust the experts. And trusting the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature
It's too low?
of democracy.
Okay.
It's a feature of religion, and it's a feature of totalitarianism. In democracies, we have the obligation.
All right, I'm going to start it back over for 1 sec because people couldn't hear it. Sorry, let me go back.
My opinion, I always tell people, is irrelevant. We need to stop trusting the experts, right? We were told at the beginning of COVID, don't look at any data yourself, don't do any investigation yourself, just trust the experts. And trusting the experts is not a feature of science, it's not a feature of democracy. It's a feature of religion, and it's a feature of totalitarianism. In democracies, we have the obligation, and it's one of the burdens of citizenship, to do our own research and make our own determinations about things.
Okay. All right, we're back. So, first of all, going to the point that I was making. So this is where we're at now, right? We're now getting to the space where people who have following somehow get to spew any kind of rhetoric they want to and pass it off as law, right? I've always said, especially with white men, a lot of them move in a space of authoritative disposition all the time. No matter what they say, they always talk as if it's law, as if it's reality. And so this is what I'm talking about where we say the privileges that white men get. They've always got to cut corners, or they've always had an opportunity to cut corners. So we're now at a space where you have somebody who's saying, we don't need to trust the experts. We'll do our own research. I just want us to get to an area where we understand that just because people have online followings, or you've seen a meme, or you saw an Instagram post with some big letters and some dramatic music in the background, that does not make you the person who is, knowing of all things with whatever it is that you think you're talking about. And so the point that I want to get, because really what this is the man that is over HHS. HHS, that's Health and Human Services, right? So that's our CDC, that's the NIH. That's like all of the agencies that deal with public health. And this is somebody who did not go to medical school, who has no background in medical anything or science, or not even anything but like pharmacy, none of that. His background was law. But because he just was loud, strong, and wrong, and somehow could make, I don't know how y'all can sit through that all day, because there's nothing you can say to convince me. It's not even, by the time I get through The Voice, I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't know how y'all do it, but whatever. But anyway, it's to the point where this man has presented himself to be the all-knowing of everything, where even groups that specify or specifically have their expertise in the fields of study that they research in, he knows more than. And we need to really paint the picture. When somebody wants to be a doctor, think of how many years they have to go to school. When somebody wants to be a scientist, think of how many years they want to go to school. Same thing with physicians, pharmacists, all that stuff. But it doesn't just start with school. Then they have to get hands-on practice, whether it's a residency, whether they have to get some kind of fellowship. Like, there are people who are prepping in their field for up to a decade, sometimes 12, 13, 14 years before they can finally practice as that expert, before they can finally kind of utilize their experience to start sharing things with the world. And then once it gets to that portion, then we also have all of these different groups that are represented by, you know, what you would call, I guess you could say maybe like a union or agency or groups, right? So we have RFK, who now thinks he knows more than a lot of the groups that represent like thousands. So like the APHA, which is 25,000 people that work in healthcare and the medical field. He knows more than all of them, right? He knows more than the Committee to Protect Public Health. That's a group of 18,000 different physicians, right? He knows more than the Federation of State and Medical Boards, right? That is a set of 71 different state and medical boards that make sure that before they give people a license to practice medicine and some sciences, that they meet the standards, that they meet the credentials, that they know what the F they're talking about. Right. And now, mind you, these are all the people he's at war with. Right. So, again, a man who has no medical experience in anything. All he has is appearances on the Breakfast Club and appearances on these random podcasts. And somehow that makes him somebody who knows more than the American Board of Allergy and Immunology, more than the American Board of Colon and Rectal Surgery, more than the American Board of Emergency Medicine, more than the American Board of Family Medicine, Internal Medicine, Neurological Surgery, more than the Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology. American Board of Orthopedic Surgery, American Board of Pediatrics, American Board of Plastic Surgery, Preventative Medicine, Radiology, Surgery. Let's see what else do we have on here. The American Osteopathic Association. I'm skipping so many. American Board of Physician Specialties. Again, all 27 institutes at the National Institutes of Health. Everything at the CDC. All of these different groups, he knows more than. And his reasoning is, don't trust the experts. We got to do our own research. There are some things where, yes, I think there are spaces where we can do research, like, hey, when you're going to vote, you can research on whatever candidate is running and look into their background. But there are some things that you don't have the expertise on because you didn't put in the decade and some change of academic study, and you didn't put in the additional 20 or 30 years of field work. That's like me becoming the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, I played football in 8th and 9th grade. I stopped playing because I stopped growing and everybody was bigger than me. And mind you, I was on defense and I got tired of getting, you got me at the time who was like 5'3", 90 pounds playing safety and corner. And I'm supposed to be taking down the running backs and the quarterbacks and stuff, right? I knew what my strengths and my weaknesses were. And I was like, football was fun, but I'm going to let it go. Plus I wasn't that good anyway, right? But that would be like putting me in a position at the NFL to coach a team. I have a very basic understanding of football because I watch it as a fan, but that's where it stops. So it's like me being in charge of the offensive line for the Eagles. And I get that position just because, I don't know, I started a YouTube channel. And in one of my podcast episodes of Comedically Hard-Headed, I talked about the time I played football. So now I get to be the expert on football. And I all of a sudden know more than anybody who has already played in the NCAA D1, who's played in the NFL, who's retired, who works at ESPN, who does any kind of sports. I know more than all of them because I'm the expert, because I said so. And so you guys need to also stop trusting the experts. So we're getting into this era where disinformation is becoming prioritized, where getting the general public to buy in to questioning everything. And again, like I always say, it's fine to question, but when you question something, you need to question and then go and find the sources that can back or answer the questions that you're looking for. And the thing with RFK is RFK has no research-based anything. Everything RFK has ever put out there, there's not research behind it. Or the people that he likes to cite or utilize are people who are already in his corner. I don't know if you guys saw the hearing from a few days ago, but nonsense, right? And so again, the other thing I want to say is when we're talking about public health, the United States has partnered with scientists and agencies all over the world because globally, a lot of the countries have been working together because they understand we can get more done together by putting together our best and your best and their best. And we put all the best together and they do the research and try to figure out how to fix this, how to cure this, how to take care of that. It'll make it a whole lot easier than all of these different folks having their own program. And so now you're watching all of that kind of get just chipped away day by day by day. And here we are. And so when I see like the whole idea of like, let's not trust the experts. Again, it goes back to what I was saying about like even just, again, this whole white male thing. It's that specific demographic that really latches onto that idea where, again, they don't ever want to do the work, but they want to be in charge of everything. Remember how I always say there's folks who always want to be the face of a movement without the work? That's kind of where we're at. You have a lot of mediocre white men who want to be in charge of everything. And so, again, they speak from an authoritative disposition on things that they don't know about, but because they think they sound good saying what they say, and there are idiots who will run behind them, then they end up getting these movements and then they end up in positions of power, which is wild to me. And what's so funny, and the reason I'm harping on this, because at the same time, what is the big giant movement that's happening right now politically in the United States and the groups that are being targeted, right? Everything is anti-DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, which now to white people means didn't earn it. They have found every reason under the sun to say that you are not qualified if you look like I do, or that the woman is not qualified. Anybody who's not a white male is unqualified for everything. And so in this era where everybody who's not a white male has to jump hurdles to just get in the door, white men can run around here and say, don't trust the experts. We're going to do our own research. We know everything. And they get in the door. This is what I'm talking about when they cut corners. Again, it's like watching the kid who doesn't make the basketball team and their parents sue the school, right? And then because of that, the school has to cave. Not only does the kid get to be on the basketball team, but they get to be the captain, right? And the original coach gets fired. The parents are going to be coached too. That's kind of like what we're living in. So in this current era of anti-DEI, where, again, we just saw the 300,000 plus Black women who've all lost their jobs over the last few months through a bunch of nonsense, where specifically this is very targeted. This is not random. This is not, positions were cut and people just happen to be Black. No, they went after specific groups, specific agencies, specific initiatives, so on and so forth, especially a lot of the chief diversity officer positions, which most of them were filled by white women. But again, all of that cut, right? And so we're watching all these different things take place. And so it's crazy. You got Scratchy Throat over there who's calling all the shots on public health right now. That's who y'all want to listen to. And folks are like, well, I mean, you talk about the red dye in the cereal, so that's why I'm down with him. I agree. Take the red dye out the cereal, but that does not mean we're going to go and all of a sudden gut all of the federal grants to public health and research. We've already seen what's happened where, again, the cuts to sickle cell research and cancer research and lupus and so on and so forth. And again, this is a man who's responsible for the death of over 83 people in Samoa because he went over there and spearheaded the anti-vaccine campaign over there against measles. Actually, I think I always got some evidence on some stuff. Let's share the screen. Did I have it on here? Let's see. Let's see if I can get this to open. Hold on. No, that's not what I want. We're going to skip that. It must be my phone. Oh, it is. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Let me cancel that. And let's share the screen. All right, going back to Cuckoo Man. Sorry, folks. Y'all know I'll be having the wrong stuff. Let's try that again. All right, so going back to Samoa, right? All right. Oh, God, make it make sense. All right. Hawaii Governor and ER Doctor Josh Green. Let me make sure y'all can see this too. Okay, y'all can see it. Perfect. All right, so as both a physician and governor, I've seen the devastating effects of misinformation about vaccines. During a measles outbreak in Samoa, RFK Jr.'s rhetoric led to the widespread fear, causing many to avoid vaccinations. Tragically, 83 innocent children were lost their lives. We were in Samoa in the aftermath of RFK Jr., going through that country and discouraging its people, scaring them from being vaccinated. 83 children had just died, and over 5,000 cases of measles that we diagnosed had been spread through the country. It was a disaster, and it was caused in large part by RFK Jr. He is a terrible pick for HHS secretary, and if he does become our lead health official in the country, you're going to see outbreaks like this in rural communities and cities across America. Well, he's already been in there, so he has it, right? Let's see here. People who worked on the Samoan measles response told the Associated Press that the credibility RFK Jr. gave to anti-vaccine forces when he met with them had an impact. MJ, we just put a J at the end. Leilani Jackson, a Samoan nurse who worked on the vaccination campaign to stem or to stem the measles outbreak, said she remembered that after Kennedy's visit, the anti-vaccine influencers got louder. I feel like they felt they had the support of Kennedy, but I also think that Kennedy was very well. He came in and left, and other people picked up the pieces, and that's exactly why I want to stop, because that's the other thing that tends to happen. These folks get to come in here and do Lord knows what, and then they get to act like ain't nothing happened, and they get to jump ship. When you're a part of the majority collective, you get to stay collectively stupid. You get to stay collectively in a space where you can make really horrible decisions and then jump ship and act like you had nothing to do with it, because whiteness will always protect you. And so that's always been RFK's thing. But I want to go a little bit deeper, right? Because again, this is somebody that they decided to give this giant platform, and he's in charge of all of our health. I just want to highlight just some of the programs that he's cut. We don't have time to go through all of them because it's too many of them. But I do want to pull this up, right? And I'm just going to go specifically with grants and stuff that he's cut from HHS. Remember, this is your health, right? People keep thinking, I know people love to watch all these movies and they think all of these different health agencies are trying to kill us and and they've been doing this. And, we love to bring up Tuskegee. Yes, that the United States has a history of doing very terrible things, right? That's no secret. At the same time, because those things have been to an extent addressed, where the U.S. has learned from those and said we should never do that again. Let's try to make things right. Or at least we used to be that way until about 2016, right? We're now in a space where, because of those instances where, again, people like us were on the receiving end of bad medical science and everything else like that. Like I said, it gives people a reason to be skeptical, which is fair. I will not knock that. But at the same time, people are now doing the blanket statement thing for the entire, in front of all of it. So, all right. Anyway, so I just want to highlight some of the grants that have been cut. We're not going to, we'll be here all day, but understand this is billions of dollars worth of grants. These are kind of small, so I'll make this a little bigger. Let's see here. We're going to cut the grant for, let's see, developing a community-based facility to support next generation biomedical HIV research. That was $1.3 million that was cut. I'm just going to scroll some. The behavior cost of carbon, whatever grant that was cut. Post-traumatic stress and alcohol use as mechanisms explaining IPV among bisexual women who disclose sexual violence to partners, examining minority stress as a moderator. That was only $15,000. They still cut that too. I'm just going through random things here. Associations among maternal stress, epigenetics and behavioral cognitive development across the first few years of life. $14,000 cut from that. Mind you, this is 42 pages of cuts. Let's go to some of these bigger ones. All of U.S. Southern California consortium engagement, enrollment, and retention of diverse populations. $1.4 million cut from that. The Institute for Health and Equity Research Catalyst Center, $740,000 cut from that. Social networks and cognitive health among Black and Latino sexual minority men in New Jersey. That was cut. Doxy Prep Impact Study. Remember, we've talked about Doxy Prep before. A multi-city U.S. longitudinal cohort to evaluate Doxy Prep field's effectiveness, investigate associated antimicrobial resistance, and establish Doxy Prep need ratios. 1.5 million cut from that. I'm just scrolling and scrolling. And if you notice on the left side over here, all of these are cut from universities. We have a lot of research institutes here, right? R1 institutes in the United States as far as universities that research different things, right? Let's see. Reproductive health, confidentiality and use of health insurance coverage for reproductive health services, cut. Let's see, I'm just scrolling. And this link here, I can put this in the thing here, but this is literally a list of all of the grants that have been cut in the last 6 months, right? All of these, $33 million. Pandemic preparedness, $33 million. Pandemic preparedness, cut, right? Another $28 million. That sounds like COVID vaccine. Development outpatient antiviral cocktails against SARS, COVID, and other potential pandemic RNA viruses. Well, they was cutting that too. Let's see. I'm just scrolling. Cherokee Native American Research Center Health, $1.7 million. That was cut. Sorry, Native Americans, y'all ain't getting that either. Nope. HPV vaccination uptake barriers and its efficiency. $1.9 million cut. Let's see. I mean, I'm only on page 7 of 42. We're not gonna go through them all. I'm just scrolling, but like all of these different things here. And I mean, this is what we're talking about. The Cancer Center Support Grant. Speaking of cancer, cut, right? Improving inclusivity of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias research for Asian Americans and Latinx through nationally represented hybrid sampling. It's $1.7 million cut, right? I'm just scrolling here. I didn't look at this before we got on here, so y'all getting this in real time. Assessing cervical cancer healthcare inequities in diverse populations. The Achieve study, $847,000 cut from that. Now, mind you, like I said, this is 42 pages of programs for public health. HIV prevention trials, $24 million cut. Oh Lord, this one here, $262 million cut. What was this? Epidemiology of laboratory capacity, prevention, and control of emergent infectious diseases. Oh, this is all pandemic type stuff. Okay. Wow. Oh, this is all from the same. Ooh, Lord. Okay, RFK. Jesus. I'm getting rid of everything. He's trying to kill us. You know, he's also somebody who believes in the strongest survive. He's trying to do this whole herd immunity nonsense with everything. Wow. Jeez Louise. Immunization and vaccines for children, 4 million cut, 395,000 cut. I mean, we can be here all day, right? I'm just scrolling, but the point that I'm making, page isn't even loading properly. Preventative health services. I mean, these are all things that we all utilize to some extent, right? These are all things that we've, to an extent, somehow had to benefit from. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing because there's a lot of stuff here. But anyway, again, thousands of programs cut, all research programs. Even when we talk about the conversation of experts, right? Experts become experts because of trial and error, because of research, because of being in the field. You don't become an expert, again, because you just got an audience and you got to go on the Breakfast Club and somehow, and initially you ran for president and then that fell through. And then you told Kamala and Trump, well, whichever one of y'all get in, I want a position and you're the expert. So again, this is where we're at, right? And so where I also get annoyed is even with Congress, because some of the people in Congress are really pissed off about him and so on and so forth. And I'm like, but you guys are the people who signed him in. Like you even a handful of Democrats. I'm like, you guys also said yes. And so here we are. And it's funny because during the hearing, they're like, oh, are you going to protect the integrity of this? Or are you going to protect the integrity of that? Blah, 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 blah. And the man is up there, I will do what the things say they must do. Because, and I'm like, now y'all, this man is up here lying through his teeth. And what makes it bad, and God forgive me, but because of whatever happened here, right, it takes him longer to get the lie out. So he gets time to think about his lies, and they still don't even come out right. So, and I'm like, and y'all still just sat there and put them right in there, right? Boy, don't get me started, right? And then, I'm sorry, he already looks, can we pull up a picture? He already looks like death. That's the part that I'm confused about. I'm like, this is who y'all want in charge of stuff? Talking about public health? Let me pull up a picture of this fool, RFK Jr., right? And the Kennedys weren't a bad looking family, so I don't know what happened with him. But let's pull that. Yeah, let's do that one. Now, I'm not want to talk about people's looks, but I'm just saying again, when we're talking about discernment, you need to have discernment about who you want. You want him in charge of your health, right? This looks like death, right? This looks like somebody that has done some hard living. I don't know who to do this with the tie-dye shirt on, but some hard living, right? This isn't just aging. Now I know some of them age like sliced bananas, but no, that's him, right? This is heroin usage. This is eating roadkill. This is having a worm that has died in your brain. This is all the other stuff he got going, but y'all want to put him in charge of everything because he knows what's best for us. Somebody be for real. Which leads me to the next idiot. Let me just go ahead and go to the next clip while I'm at it, all right? Because again, also when we have that idea of people always wanting power, you're always going to have the people who will do any and everything to, get that come up because they feel like it's going to give them an opportunity to, have a better livelihood for themselves. Not for everybody else, but for themselves, right? So let me pull up this next clip. Let's see here. All right, let's do that one. I swear to God. I'm supposed to not swear to God. I'm sorry, y'all. But all right, here we go. This one here, I've been waiting to get him.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end
all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them. Every last one of them. Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery. Okay? Who am I as a government or anyone else, or even who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body? Who am I?
Okay, so all right, I think I turned my mic up a little too loud, but all right, okay, so what's very interesting is he knows he's saying some BS. Like, I'm gonna tell you why he knows. Like, he absolutely knows it. But remember how we were talking about discernment? There's something I want to share here because I just want us to make note of what's going to eventually happen, right? So when we look at these different articles, let me pull up this one here. As they talk about this idea in Florida of pulling all the vaccine mandates for the kids in order to go to public school, whose face do you see in all of these stories when you pull up mandates, right? You see Joseph Lapado, I think that's his name, right? Every picture is his face. Because what's going to end up happening, like I said, you can always get people who will be a mouthpiece for white supremacy, right? And so what ends up happening, when stuff hits the fan, they're not going to go and say RFK is the reason, blah, 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 or Ron DeSantis is the reason all these kids in Florida are dying, or they got smallpox or measles or the mumps or whatever else they're going to catch. They're going to say that N-word there. Let me pull it back up again to make sure y'all remember. They're going to say it was dude. He's the reason little Tabitha died in Tampa. He's going to be the reason little Samantha died in Florida somewhere. He's going to be the reason Billy John, because his parents were like, yeah, my child, my choice, their body, my choice. I don't care. I'll go to the school and whatever he gets, it's fine. We'll have a measles party. So then little Billy dies over there in Orlando. And it's going to be this man's fault. It's not going to be RFK. It's not going to be the other people who led the charge. It's always the person that they put up there in the front to be the face of everything, right? And so what I also find very interesting, right? They love to bring up slavery. Every time there's always a tap dancing Negro that loves to bring up some conversation of slavery. Like I always say, I know I always say be wary of black faces in high spaces, but also be wary of black faces that tap dance for white bases, okay? That is Lapado, whatever his name is, right? But we've seen that before. Every time they want to somehow make sure that white Americans know that they're one of the good ones and that you don't have to worry about me, they for some reason love to utilize and bring up slavery to try to, again, paint that picture that white people are also being oppressed. Because like I said earlier, we have a segment of white Americans who think that everybody's out to get them. And so somehow when we can get somebody like Joseph Lapado or because these people have all done it, Ben Carson, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, who else? Oh, Winston Sears, Virginia, act like y'all got some sense, Virginia. Because Winston Sears, let me show y'all who y'all girl is who's running for governor. Do I have her picture in here? I know I got it. Damn, that's not the right one. Okay, I'm gonna pull it up anyway. Hold on. Because she's another one who was talking about get over slavery and all that other stuff, but then they want to use slavery when they're trying to get a political come up. All right, but remember, Virginia, don't think just because you see a black face that she is down with the people. This image right here tells you everything you need to know right here. What is this saying? Oh, I did not need to go to X. Pow, right? This is somebody who's saying, I know all of the rhetoric that you crazy right-wing white nationalist Americans love to use, and you love the Second Amendment, so I'm going to come over here because I'm originally from Jamaica, and I'm going to latch onto all your talking points and show you that I can be one of the good ones, and I'm going to disassociate myself from everybody else. So please trust me because let me show you my work at the shooting range because I'm just like this right here told me everything I needed to know. But anyway, so the point that I'm making is, again, they love to come out here and tap dance and do any and everything, and that messaging is not for us. The whole idea of this is worse than slavery, that is for them to feel good about the terrible choices that they're making. When I say them, I'm talking about that white crowd that he was standing with that was giving him a standing ovation. That is for them to feel good about whatever nonsense that they're going with because, okay, we have a black person who's co-signing with our struggle and blah, 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 blah. And I think what annoys me the most about Joseph Lapado is like, I hate doing the diaspora war shit, but dang it, he came here from Nigeria. So his lineage is not even tied to the conversation of slavery in the United States, but he has the nerve to use it, right? As a talking point, not because he's trying to do something to help, benefit those who have been on the receiving end of slavery or come from that lineage, but more so because he is using it as a way to justify the white nonsense that's about to happen in Florida, right? They love to use the conversation of slavery, but then when reparations come into the conversation, they want to be silent. They'll stand in the way and jump against it. Like, that's the nonsense I'm talking about. And so again, this is all about helping white folks feel oppressed about what they're doing and blah 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 blah. And one other thing, because listen, I gotta get another clip. I'm not even gonna play the clip. I just need you to look at the clip because I was like, how do you go on TV looking like this and people take you seriously? Where's that clip at? Yeah, this one here. Because child, all right. I'm not gonna play the clip. I'm just gonna fast forward because this is just proving my point. Like, who are these people that y'all got in charge of? This is the Surgeon General for Florida, right? Let me just fast forward. Let's get to look at this. I'm gonna mute him because we don't need the sound. This mouth area. You went on national TV, ashy as hell, right? The mouth. What? Dry. There's no Burt's Bees. Nothing. Ash. And you want to talk about hell? You went on here looking dusty as hell. Dusty. And the healthcare of children all across that state are in this man's hands, and he don't even know how to get on national TV and look decent. Looking ashy. If this is not a character from the Chappelle Show, what the hell? I'm not even going to talk about this voice that he uses because this is not the voice that he was born with. He has somehow found a way to assimilate and sound like like if you close your eyes, you're thinking that you're talking to Gregory from Arizona, right? Somebody stop I swear. I always say I don't want to be in politics, but I'm getting real close to saying, let me just run for something so I can cut somebody out. Because what? Man, I can't do it. And I think what's annoying about all of this is that, this is not to be all gung-ho about vaccines and vaccinations and everything. But when we get to a place where there are things that have been collectively understood and backed by the science that affect public health and the livelihood of everybody, why do you go out of your way to all of a sudden start dismantling that? And again, this is all in the name of, again, protecting freedoms, right? Because everybody, for some reason, when white folks don't get their way, they think everything is slavery. They think everything is tyranny. And it's so funny because they'll talk about when Joe was in office, when Obama was in office, it was tyranny this, tyranny that, don't tread on me, Second Amendment, blah, 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 blah. Here we are now. Federal government is literally being weaponized against the people, and all the Second Amendment disciples are silent as hell. I ain't seeing nobody. I didn't see the Second Amendment brigade show up to DC when the National Guard showed up. They nothing, right? They're not going to be going to Chicago when the National Guard gets over there. They're not going to Baltimore when the National Guard gets over there. They didn't do anything in LA with all the ICE stuff. They nowhere to be found. All this Second Amendment freedom and we need our guns because if the government ever tries to take over, we're literally living through it and they ain't got nothing to say. And that's because it was never about the Second Amendment. It's about controlling everybody who's not white. We've been knew that, right? Nonsense. And so, anyway, we're in a space where so many have made war with common sense. So, to back all this up, because I don't know if I gave enough context. So, in the state of Florida, they lifted all of the vaccine mandates. You know that as a parent, when you have children, in order for them to go to public school, where all the children tend to go outside the private ones, then, there are a certain set of vaccines that you have to get. Mainly because a lot of the specific diseases that you're getting vaccines for are contagious and can kill others. Even if, because when people are like, oh, my body, my choice, blah, blah, blah. Okay, tuberculosis, right? If you choose to not get the vaccine for TB, right? One, you're probably going to die from it, but you can also spread it to someone else. I already told you like my family history, but like my great grandmother and her sister both died from TB in the early 1900s just because it was a really bad outbreak at the time. And so as science progressed, they learned about what can we do to prevent these things from happening. And then we get there and you get the research and you get the people to participate. And then we were in a space where things like TB, measles, mumps, all those things were not really a concern because people have been taking care of themselves and getting whatever vaccinations, and we're not having these outbreaks, right? And so the idea of somehow turning public health into a political statement where, blah, 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 the expense of everybody else, but my freedom, that's an issue. And what's unfortunately going to happen is there are going to be people who are collateral to the nonsense. People who did well. Because even if you get the vaccine, it doesn't mean it's going to prevent everything, right? There are going to be people who catch something, whether it's polio, Lord knows what. And they're going to catch whatever they catch as a result of other people being ignorant, right? And the thing that I feel with all of this, right, is more so people can have the choice to do whatever they want to do. But if your choice affects the safety or the livelihood of other people, then that's where it becomes more of a conversation about what is the good of the people, what is for the betterment of society. It's no longer about the individual. So when I'm thinking like a choice, right? A choice is your kid needs some braces. You have a choice as to whether or not they're going to get braces or not. If they don't get them, okay, maybe they get them as adults. But them not getting braces is not going to endanger the other kids in their classroom, as opposed to you not making your child get God forbid, let TB start spreading around here, right? You as a parent say, my child, my choice. They're not getting the TB shot. It's only like 2 of them you got to get in life, or maybe it's 4 by the time you're 30. I forgot. But anyway, and now your child goes to school. They have TB somehow. They spread it to everybody in the class, and it spreads and it spreads. And understand that we've been here many times before where Americans just got a little too high on their high horse, thinking that they were invincible from everything, and then stuff got worse for everybody else. So let me pull up an image here, because I always have a story time ready. All right. God, make it make sense. Okay. I'm a little annoyed today, guys. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm yelling at y'all. All right. This image here, right? Looks like a great time. Ooh, what is this? A parade? You see, we got American flags and, I'm sure the music. I'm sure there's a horn section somewhere over there, right? And so this was the Liberty Loan Parade, right? In Philadelphia. Big parade. Big. 200,000 attendees. Now, this is in 1918. Someone in the chat, please tell me what was happening in the United States in 1918, aside from the end of World War I. I know you guys know it because if you follow me, I know you got some common sense and you got some you smart around here. So someone please tell us in the chat what was happening in 1918. Thank you, Nikita Clark. Spanish flu, right? Spanish flu had just done a number globally through the spring of 1918. And so as we get to the summer, things start to slow. We get to the fall of 1918. Things slow drastically, right? To the point where people are saying, all right, well, now we can get back out there and do everything. When in reality, it just wasn't quite time. I'm going to actually read an article just to keep my story here going versus, or am I going to read an article? Or am I just going to do what I want to do? Maybe I'm just going to do what I want to do. Let's see. How do I want to present this? Okay, I'll just share this piece here. We're not going to read the whole article. I'll just do a piece of it. All right. So going back, I love this little technology. I don't know why I wasn't using this years ago. So again, we talked about in Philadelphia. They were going to have this big parade, 200,000 people, right? Now, the equivalent of this parade would be like where the United States was in, let's say, about August of 2020 during the pandemic, right? In August of 2020, COVID was still a thing. It had slowed down a little bit, but we weren't in the clear yet at all, right? I don't even think the vaccine was out or anything like that, right? But things had slowed down a little bit, right? Anyway, 12,000 soldiers in Massachusetts came down with the flu in mid-September. Each division of the armed services was reporting hundreds of deaths each week due to the flu. Philadelphia was the hardest hit city in the United States. After the Liberty Loan Parade, celebrations to promote government bonds that helped pay for the Allied cause in Europe on September 28th, thousands of people became infected. The city morgue, built to hold 36 bodies, was now faced with the arrival of hundreds within a few days. The entire city was quarantined and nearly 12,000 city residents died. Overall in the United States, 5 out of every 1,000 people fell victim to the flu. In the rest of the world, the death toll was much worse. In Latin America, 10 out of every 1,000 people died. In Africa, it was 15 per 1,000. In Asia, it was as high as 35 per 1,000. It is estimated that up to 20 million people perished in India alone. 10% of the entire population of Tahiti died within 3 weeks. In Western Samoa, 20% of the population died. More people died from the flu than all of the battles of World War I combined. Again, that was just the second wave, right? There was already a wave that had taken place. And the thing is, that second wave was so bad that it found its way over to Alaska and eventually got to California and really did some damage, right? And so and that all stems from, hey, let's have a parade. We're going to do a parade. So they have this big old giant parade. Look how things happen. So again, when people are always talking about, oh, my body, my choice, or we're going to have a parade because, yes, some people died, but we're past it. We got to celebrate American exceptionalism and whatever little partnerships we just made after blowing up all these countries in Europe. We're going to have a big parade, right? Let's do it. And all these people died, millions, because of stupidity. And that's kind of where we're at now. So when you're looking at what's happening in the state of Florida, that's just Florida. That's step one. If you don't think other states are going to start following the same, if they have lunatics in charge as well, like, and the wildest part is they were warned in Philadelphia not to do it, right? And so between September and December of 1918, 292,000 Americans died as a result of the wave or the spread that came from that parade, right? Again, this was in Philly. So when people be thinking that, oh, well, that's Florida, that's not going to affect me, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Oh, it spreads. Think back to when COVID first came and it was over in China. We ain't got nothing to worry about. And then that first case was, of course, Washington State. It's always my home state where something got to go down, right? All the crazy serial killers come from Washington State. Ted Bundy, the Green River Killer, all of them. The Mary Kay Letourneau, the first teacher to assault a student, Always got to be my state every time. But anyway, that's why I don't live there no more. But that first COVID case hit Washington State. Oh, it's way over there. Don't matter. A week later, everybody had it, right? It just kept spreading, right? And so they were warned. But again, it's like they said, no, we have our rights. We're our own city. We want to have a parade because we have to show how strong we are. And then look how many other people become collateral to the decisions of selfish people. So I just want people to use their discernment in all of this. Now, I know some of you have your viewpoints on vaccines and blah, 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 blah. My suggestion is to actually go and make sure that while you have your thoughts, that you're actually utilizing research-based analysis, not research that you found on Reddit, not research that you found on Twitter or Instagram or somebody's YouTube channel who also told you that, you know, if you well, I'm not even going to put some of that out there because then y'all going to start looking for stuff. People, discernment. Lack of discernment is how we've gotten here. We already know there's one demographic of people who don't have it at all, right? But now in our demographic, I'm watching so many start to slide into the foolery. I'm like, y'all are making me nervous here. You make me real nervous, right? Anyway, I'm gonna take a break and read some comments here because I've been talking for a really long time. And I just, again, people need to really, Florida residents, act like y'all got some sense. And please don't be fooled. RFK talks all this trash about vaccines and he got every last one of them. Dr. Joseph Lapado, whatever his name is, his kids don't even go to public school. His kids go to private school and they are also all vaccinated. So while they're trying to sit here and talk about impeding on your freedoms, public safety and public health is not the same. It's not interchangeable with the conversation of freedom to have agency to do certain things. You have to think about how this works because they'll sit here and talk about, you know, the freedom to choose and blah, 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 blah. But let it come to women's reproductive rights, then they want to shut that conversation down. There's no freedom in that. Now, all of a sudden, you want to restrict abortion or anything else that's out there. Access to not even just abortion, contraceptives. You got people putting in legislation to literally ban birth control, trying to ban condoms, trying to ban Plan B. Everything under the sun they want to ban. But then all of a sudden, when it comes to actual public safety with things like tuberculosis and measles that actually kill people, we're not talking chicken pox here. Like, we're talking literally smallpox vaccinations. Like, did we forget what happened to the Native Americans? But again, let everybody think that they're exceptional enough to be exempt from all this. Like, the stupidity just baffles me. Make it make sense. Anyway. Somebody said Tim Scott's brother. Nah, I don't know what's going on with Tim Scott. And you see Tim Scott still ain't got a cabinet position after all that tap dancing. I just love you, Mr. Trump. I just love you so much. Nothing. Didn't get married to that woman that you don't want to be with. Anyway. And I don't get how he still has any medical license. I feel like all those boards should have been pulled his stuff because he's been doing some nonsense for a few years. But no, he is somebody in my position or my opinion. He wants his white appreciation certificate. And so that's why he's doing everything for that. Just like how I talk about Byron Donalds all the time and how he does all these very anti-black things or he's always in the way. That's because the district that he represents is majority white. He's not even representing a district that comes from his very own background. So he gets to tap dance because, you know, he has to make sure that he appeases that crowd. That's what the Florida Surgeon General is doing at the moment, too. He is tap dancing for Ron DeSantis, who has just done everything under the sun in Florida. Florida is a shit show right now, whether we're talking about their real estate economy and how that's crashing. Nobody wants to talk about it, but Florida is going through it with real estate. The issues that they're having with insurance, especially with homeowners insurance, because nobody wants to insure anything in Florida because infrastructure has been compromised due to a lot of the cuts in regard to what's happening with climate change. And I'm always getting hit by hurricanes and so many things happening in the state of Florida. Much love to those of you who live there. Good luck. But make it make sense. Oh, Brian, he gonna sit there and correlate that with slavery. I said, because here's the thing. If you don't want your kids to get vaccinated to go to public school, you have a choice to go to a school that's not public. You have a choice to homeschool your children. So how are we equating this to slavery? Like, y'all gonna get enough of doing that. It's about time I do another slavery-related video, too, because I think people are starting to water down just how terrible that was. They love to utilize that for a talking point. Somebody said idiocracy over and individualism. Thank you, Leonard. Exactly. Melody said, if Winsome or whatever her name is ends up being the first black woman governor, I'll be physically sick. Well, she's already the first black woman lieutenant governor of Virginia, right? She got in there under Youngkin, and she's been in the way of a lot of things. And once she already told us to get over slavery, I already knew where she stood and who she is moving for. She ain't moving for us. So please understand, just because you see them faces, this is when you do the research. This is when the discernment kicks in. You need to go and look into some of these candidates because they love to kind of prop us up there when they want us to be the mouthpiece for white supremacy so that they can kind of pull in that black vote. That was the entire purpose of what's his name that ran for Senate in Georgia against Warnock, Herschel Walker. That was the whole purpose of putting him out there, right? Send him out there. They know Warnock is running. Let's confuse the black community and put a black NFL player who we're sure he's beloved. They'll love him. Put him out there or whatever. Have him run against Warnock, and hopefully he'll dilute enough of the black vote that, you know, Herschel Walker can win, since it didn't work with Loeffner against the other guy. Because remember, Loeffner was the billionaire blonde lady that every time she had a debate, she never had anything to say. She just go up there and be like, the radical left Democrat, like she'd be the radical left Democrats and all the things that they want to do to destroy America. And I'm like, why do you sound like hooked on phonics in fourth grade? Like, what's going on here? But anyway, it didn't work with her, so they said, let's put Herschel Walker up there. So then he goes up there. And all the things they doing at the school. I was like, I really love my people. And I always love me a Southern accent. I always feel like I'm at home. But the fact that they use him and try to do that whole familiar, family-oriented kind of energy, when in reality, the policy that he would have been so detrimental to black people in Georgia, and not just Georgia, but nationwide, because that would have been a Senate seat. I'm so glad that man lost, and we ain't seen him since, right? It's all. That's the other thing. These people lose, and then you never see from them again or hear from them again. I'm like, I thought y'all cared about the people. I feel like if you lose, then you go a different route. So maybe like a Stacey Abrams, she lost, but then she said, well, let me do some grassroots work and try to still be in the field. Like, a lot of people lose and they still do some kind of community work. But then we have others who lose and we never see or hear from them again. It just tells you how they were bought out and paid for. Somebody said, Ashy Larry, y'all. I just, how do you go on Ashy? Don't they have a makeup room? I'm like, see, can we go back? I just got to bring it up one more time. I'm not going to bring it up after this, but I was watching and I was in shock. Like, and y'all know I'm not a very pretentious person when it comes to looks enough. And I'd be on here and just little teeth and be chilling. But again, national TV, Ashy, this was pissing me off so bad. Like I said, what the, and it's like, God, if I could zoom in, it's like there's something right here. It's like, you know how sometimes if you've had like gum and you try to blow a bubble and then it pops, but it's stuck on your lip and dry. Like that's what this looks like. I'm like, look at like, what's that stat they just had? Oh, do you think Florida schools should require vaccines for students? Among Florida parents, 82% said yes, 17% said no. They didn't care. They said we still gonna do it anyway. But no, this here, just Ashy, dusty. Come on, man. I'm gonna be petty. I'm gonna be petty and Google what his wife looks like after this, but I'm not gonna do it on here because I know exactly what she's gonna look like. But anyway, okay, back to the comments here. Just a little chapstick, just a little bit, right? Something. And he needs to do a sugar scrub when he get home, right? All right, that was Spanish flu. Somebody said, oh, my grandmother was born in 1918, LOL. Mine was born in 1938. And I think my grandfather was born in, my grandfather was in World War II. My grandfather's 92, so do the math. He should have been born in the 20s, I think. Somebody said USA loves to make us as stupid as possible. And again, we've seen what's happening with education. We've seen who's in charge of education, right? The world could be so great. I don't even want to use the term great because I think of MAGA, but things could be so wonderful here. What pisses me off the most, the United States has the resources to make life so great here. And I think a lot of people living here are starting to see how good it's becoming in other countries and seeing how other countries have been able to upgrade their infrastructures and their healthcare and their education and their food quality and this and that. And the one thing Americans are latching on to is, well, but we're America. Like that's literally it, that American exceptionalism. That's why I always kind of speak against it, because it makes people complacent. Where if you can just always just wave the flag in people's face and talk about how great we are and we're so much better than the other countries, then people stay in a world of illusion, which is why people love to always talk about freedom in America. Well, freedom, we have freedom. I'm like, well, what do you think they have in most other countries too? Why do you think that every other country outside of the United States has people in chains and whips picking potatoes and peeling them every day? Like what? Some of y'all need to get outside, right? Just even in our conversations, think about like when people talk trash to each other, like, man, get out of my face. And white folks be like, free country. It's a free country. I do what I want. Like, My God. My God. All right. Somebody said, Calvin, are you going to move out of America? No, I ain't going nowhere. Hell no. My people build all this stuff. We're going to be here and fight to the death. But I would like to have a property somewhere else, but America's home for me. That's why I'd be so latched into this. Because again, everything works in cycles and pendulums swing back and forth. And we've seen crazy moments in the US before. And so I will say all of this craziness is not going to be long term because eventually people will get sick and tired of this. I don't think Americans are tired yet. And unfortunately, it might get real bad before they finally start getting the wake up call. I know people are seeing these happy marches and stuff. That ain't enough for me, right? Marching doesn't work with people who don't care. Marching works with people who are running for re-election that are fearful of losing, but marching doesn't work against people who are trying to actively take over the government and put all their loyalists in. They could give two F words. That's why you don't send some more National Guard out here. So you got National Guard in DC bored as hell with nothing to do. I was walking the other day and one of them had a weed whacker. They was over. I was like, wait a minute. I was coming from the train. I said, wait a minute. Ain't you supposed to be protecting? What you weed whacking for? And mind you, DC has an entire, group of people that do all the landscaping and the grass and the tree. And that I felt so bad. And mind you, it was like 89 degrees on Saturday. I said, ain't no way. I said, God. Oh my God. Okay, I need to keep going. By the way, because some people have been asking, like, have we been okay in DC? We good over here. I don't know what they're saying in the media, but we good over here. Like I said, National Guard doesn't really have much to do. And it was funny because when I'm coming home from work, like I remember I was at it was either Metro Center or Gallery Place, Metro stop. That's one of the subway stations, and it's a subway station that's a transfer point. So like the trains have different lines, so you might have to take the green line and switch to the red or something. So the Gallery Place Metro is a place where people can switch from the red, the yellow, and the green. And so I remember I got to Gallery Place, and it's like 6 o'clock on like a Wednesday or something, right? This peak rush hour. Everybody's trying to get home from work. There was one National Guard guy who was really feeling himself, and so they're like, "All right, keep it moving. Let's go. Let's go." And nobody's paying him attention because it's like nobody is coming to the subway station to hang out. Everybody's going home. And this is a subway station that's a transfer point. So people that are coming here are either transferring to the green line so they can go into Maryland, or they're transferring to the yellow line so they can go into Virginia or Northeast DC. Nobody is hanging here. So this random National Guard person from West Virginia, of all places, well, I don't know which one he was from, but I know they sent some from West Virginia. And I'm still pissed about that because I'm like, you're going to talk about crime and everything. I'm like, the kind of crime they got in West Virginia with all that opioid and pissed off, laid off coal miners. And you're going to, okay. But anyway, I was like, people are going home. And so a lot of these people in the National Guard don't have anything to do. And this is not to attack them personally. They're only doing what they're ordered to do. We know that for those who are in the military who serve, when they get orders, unfortunately, they got to just do what's there, right? So it's not even anything against them individually. It's just the entire how this is all played out. But that guy was really feeling himself. Let's go, move it. And ain't nobody paying him no attention. Like, if you don't get on somewhere, I was like, I want to see him have that energy when there's a concert let out at Capital One Arena, because the arena is also a Gallery Place. Yeah, I want to see you move, 10,000 people in, big and bad. Let me see. Since you are in DC, can you show video footage between blacks on the east side and the police? Now, see, this is the real conversation. The real issue, thank you, Troy Body, is like what they've also done. Like we said, the police have been very deputized to kind of take and deal with the orders of what Pam Bondi is saying, because Pam Bondi is currently in charge of like DC Metropolitan Police. They've used this as an opportunity to go to specific neighborhoods that they want to target and just go after people, right? Like that's been the issue in DC, going to Ward 7, going to Ward 8 and harassing folks, having these random checkpoints, on like New York Ave, just as you're coming into the city or getting out of the city, like those things, right? So they know what they're doing, but yeah, that's the kind of issues that I'm actually seeing. And again, that's not even a National Guard thing. That's our police department, which already has their issues to begin with, right? DC has, I want to say, the largest or one of the largest police departments in the United States when we're talking per capita ratio, right? Conversation for another day, but Lord, make it make sense. And good luck to that mayor. She knows she's pissing some people off. Oh, okay. Anyway, let's shift gears here. I want to go to this next video. All right. This be an interesting one here, because again, a conversation of discernment, people. All right. This will be a fun one. All right, here we go.
Where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's going to be worse.
Though President Trump's big, beautiful bill provided a much-needed update to safety net subsidies for farmers, they won't see those federal dollars until late next year, by which time some have projected that as many as 1/4 or even 1/3 of Arkansas farmers will face bankruptcy or be forced to leave the business amid the crisis the American ag economy is currently in. It's already taken its toll this year.
Six-generation farmers will report, and we made a decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the seventh generation farmer.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that this is.
Today, Arkansas farmers gathered to share their struggles with staffers from the state's congressional delegation.
Okay, so well, discernment. And I'm speaking specifically to white farmers. I'm not even talking about the black ones that were left out of the first wave of nonsense and didn't get the bailouts the first time. White farmers in America went through this in 2017 and 2018, right? Went through all of this. Orange Man decided to start some stuff with China. China and the United States started having these tariff wars, soybean this, soybean that. China said, don't worry about it. We won't purchase any of your soybeans now, or your soy products, right? Now, we that's a huge export in the United States is soy, right? And so, because so many places consume so much, but China is one of our biggest buyers. And so 2017, 2018 happens. Farmers are down bad, okay? Down bad. We're watching the bankruptcies, farms being bought by larger corporations and private equity firms, and it gets so bad that they end up having to get a bailout. The bailout did not make a lot of white farmers whole. It just made them be able to stay afloat and ride it out. And fortunately, as things kind of got better once the next administration came in, they were able to kind of bounce back. And so you would think that after you went through that the first time, your discernment would have told you, let's make sure this doesn't happen again. But instead, Orange Man runs for re-election twice. And they said, yes, give us more. And some of these people voted for that man 3 times, 2 times. And now you want us to feel bad. You want us to feel bad because, again, if we're talking economics, you weren't voting with the discernment about what's going to happen to your farm if the very person who's already talked about what they're going to do internationally as far as tariffs, because they were saying that before they got in office, they kept saying that's how they're going to do it. That should have been a trigger word to remind you of 2017 and 2018 and even parts of 2019 to remind yourself, oh no, we don't want that. But instead, again, these people chose to vote out of spite because they felt that, hey, we're giving it to somebody else. Somebody else is going to feel the brunt. So rather than voting to make things better for everybody, you voted to take things away. And now the piper has arrived. It's time to pay the piper. And all these farms are struggling. And on top of that, we also remember how you guys moved with the black farmers that did not get any of the bailouts from 2017, 2018 from the Trump administration because they weren't USDA farms and did not qualify. We've already had the conversation. I don't feel like going back through it again. But for those who are new here, please dig through one of my videos where I talk about black farmers and why they were left out of USDA and the conversation of heirs property. Go and dig it up, please. But you saw how black farmers were treated. The Biden administration, says, hey, we need to give these people $4.5 billion. They even wrote it in a way where instead of just saying specifically black, because it would have been in the Supreme Court, even though it still went there, it was disadvantaged or disenfranchised or disadvantaged farmers, right? $4.5 billion, which still wasn't going to be enough, but it was a start. And what did you all do? After you already got a payout and a bailout from the federal government during the Trump administration, you saw somebody else getting a fraction of what you got mad and sued. Sued to the point where everything stayed in litigation and in the courts. That $4.5 billion dropped down to $2 billion that they still had to spread amongst everybody else. And then even before they could disperse everything to everybody who was supposed to get it, Orange Man gets back into office and they cancel what's left of what's supposed to go to who. And now you want me to feel bad, right? We're seeing a pattern with so many groups in this country who, again, did not use their discernment and thought that it won't affect me. It's going to affect those people. And a lot of people, again, voted out of spite or voted to harm somebody else. And now everything is hitting them. And as many of us are just sitting here watching things unfold, now everybody, this is the time to come together. I don't want to come together with none of y'all. I don't, because I know how y'all move. And I know that in the event that Orange Man tomorrow decides to write some grant and give y'all everything y'all need, y'all are going right back to the same nonsense. You have not learned your lesson. And this is the same for a lot of other communities who are being hit hard by a lot of the nonsense from this administration. None of these groups are learning their lesson. They just want to be made whole and be placed back to where they were before all this started. They're not actively fighting to make sure everybody's good. They're fighting for whatever little instance of what matters to them, not even in their own community, right? Just specifically their family, their folks, and a lot of these folks will still go back to the same nonsense. How many interviews have we seen where people have either lost their farm or their family member got snatched away and shipped off to somewhere? That whole band, the I will vote for, oh my God, I will vote. The whole band missing. Every last one of them gone, right? And then the family members that are left here are still talking about, well, I still vote for him again. I'm just like, y'all, and you want me to care. And I'm really trying to, because I'm a very empathetic person. I don't like watching people struggle, but damn, y'all all can't be this slow. Racism can't be that strong for y'all. Jeez. For Donald Trump. Oh my God. I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. And I mean, they were cranking too. I'm not gonna lie, that band sounded good. It's catchy too. Like it sounded nice, right? I mean, they had the brass section and the girl just and the guys left it. And I'm like, okay, they just having a time. And it's like, and here we are. And specifically that group, we know that was like a Cuban demographic, and we've seen what the administration has done to even the Cubans who got exiled here. Like everybody was under attack. Everybody kept thinking it wasn't going to hit them, and now it's hitting every group. And everybody's like, "Well, when the black people need to come do blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Damn, man! Now that you want all the black people to put our bodies on the line for everybody else, which technically a lot of us are still going to do it, right? That's just it's in our nature." I think black people just collectively understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of oppression. We don't want to see anybody go through it. So there's still going to be activists who are doing the work. And there's still going to be people who, maybe we move a little bit different. We're a little bit more strategic because we understand that now, the police state that we live in right now, this is not the time to really be trying to shake the table because we're going to be the first ones they shoot at. So we're finding ways to somehow give people the support that we can give. But it's funny that everybody keeps still pointing to us like, where are y'all at? How come this group, da-da-da-da-da? And it's like, where's everybody else? Y'all, all this come together. Your definition of come together is just making us do the work for y'all, so y'all go back to the same nonsense. And this is not to attack everybody. We know that every person in every group does not move this way, but the problem is there were so many of y'all who were fine with it, where everything that this man said he was going to do, that he campaigned on, that he ran on. I mean, they had signs, deport now at the rallies, old white women, deport now, right? And them same old white women waving signs, yeah. And he's talking about, I'm also be cutting Medicaid and Social Security and healthcare too. And they still dancing because they think the Mexicans are getting kicked out and everything. And that grandma and Mima got to get out of the nursing home, and she ain't got nowhere to go because her son ain't shit and he ain't got a good job and he can't afford to take care of her, right? That's the reality of like every group is getting hit, every last group, right? And I think it's pissing people off because even blacks, we're catching it bad, right? All of these black folks who've lost their jobs in the federal government or on the contracting side, the cuts that are coming to HBCUs, all of these different programs that are being gutted and cut. But the difference is that, and this is not to say that we're built to deal with this, because we are, but we also should not have to keep going through the same thing over and over and over and over. I don't like the word resilient because I don't want to have to always be resilient. I want to just be able to live, right? But I say all that to say, with everything that's happening, Black folks have already kind of been in these positions many times before, and some of them were in it before and after Orange Man got in and out of office. And so, again, it's hitting everybody, but it's pissing folks off because they don't feel like they're seeing it on our end. They feel like we're not getting it. We're getting it. Are you not seeing these clips of police coming and snatching us and beating us down every 5 minutes? Are you not seeing all the programs that are being gutted or the programs that are being cut? I just saw the article coming out of New York where they have the high school that's like a preparatory for HBCUs, which I think is beautiful. But like I said on the last live, I think Black people collectively, this is the era where we have to move in code. We can't announce what we're doing anymore because every time people find out that we have a piece of anything, they're actively working to shut it down. Anytime we have any kind, think about when you see any article where there's like the Black kid that got 40 scholarships and they got like $2 million in scholarships. Which group of people are the most pissed off in the comment section? Always some white folks. Oh my God, this is just so like they shaking, right? So I'm at a space where don't say nothing, right? Y'all, we better learn how to move in silence. Y'all better learn some code words. Stop telling everybody all the lingo and the African American vernacular English. Like, stop sharing everything, right? Y'all gonna have to learn. Now, I don't know how this works because again, my thing here at this moment is because we don't have any allies right now. I think there are people in these other groups that understand this. Like I said, I don't want a blanket statement every group of people, right? In the Latino community, there are tons of activists that have always been on the right side of history, have been fighting against this, but unfortunately, they have to fight within their own collective to get their people on board, because that's a whole nother conversation. Sometimes the only thing some of them got in Spanish is, or in common, is that they speak Spanish, right? That's literally it for some of those groups, right? Same thing with all these other groups. But the point that I'm making, for us, with how we move at this point, everything can't be broadcast, right? We can't go and do. People like to do the Black Excellence campaign, this and this. Y'all got to learn to move in silence. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that means y'all got to start utilizing the churches again as political points, where when there's let's just bring up this school again. I'm gonna just use this school as an example, right? I don't know what part of New York this school is in, but I'm just gonna pretend it's in Brooklyn. Let's say that this school is in Bed-Stuy, right? If they're trying to bring awareness to get people to register for this school, instead of making the headlines and making it all the way to CNN, which again is not a network that's really for us right now. We've seen how CNN moves. CNN decided to go for ratings. They decided to move further to the right. They decided to let pretty much a white nationalist buy up the network and be in charge of programming. CNN is not an ally to us. MSNBC is technically not either, right? I mean, Rachel's trying to hold on over there, but MSNBC compromise. All mainstream media compromise. You better really start digging to some of the independent media and everything else. But anyway, so rather than going to all of them, it's like if you're trying to bring awareness to this school to get Black parents to get their kids to sign up, then okay, I don't know. Maybe you go to all the different churches and you start doing the announcements there. Maybe you already just go into the neighborhood. Some of you guys might actually want to start attending some of these neighborhood little town gatherings that they do have, right? Doing that kind of thing, sliding some pamphlets under the doors of the people that you know, you know what I mean? Like all those different things, the establishments that people go to. So when they have all of the, because you know, in any city, especially where we're at, every bar, club, hookah this, brunch this, all of those spaces, that's when you kind of put the information out about things that are happening. So when it's Thirsty Thursdays at whatever club, and the hookah and the bottle girls, while the bottle girls are coming, they better and hand you this pamphlet about the school at the same time, and then you go ahead and drink whatever you got, right? While you're at the brunch and whatever, and if the Greeks come out and they're strolling and hopping and jumping, okay, they can stroll and twist and pass you a pamphlet. Like, that's how folks are going to have to start moving at the moment, because right now, anything that we broadcast is under surveillance, and anything that we broadcast, they're going to cut it. The whole thing, even with DEI, had nothing to do with them thinking we weren't qualified. They were going to get us out of there anyway. But once it started to become a term that was nationally recognized and very popular, look how they weaponized it against us. That's how they're moving. And so I just personally think folks need to be very careful with how they move in this moment. And it's hard to do something in code because, unfortunately, our culture has just been kind of borrowed by everybody, where even spaces that we think are ours are not ours, right? We don't got a whole lot that's just for us. Because then on top of that, then you got the ones in the collective that want to invite everybody else, right? Because somebody knew a Luther Vandross song and they went in on Here and Now at a karaoke bar. And so while we're having this meeting about whatever's happening, y'all done brought in... I don't know why I keep saying Gregory. Let me get a new name. You brought in Chase to come in because he's now invited to the cookout because he can sing Luther Vandross. Nothing against Chase, but Chase, who'd you vote for and who'd your parents vote for? And what's it like at your house on Thanksgiving? Are y'all not allowed to talk about politics because you got to keep the racist people in the family comfortable? Or are you down like with the movement? Because really, if you're going to be down, then this is what I need you to do in your community. Like, we got it over here. But if you want to help us, let me tell you what you can do in your community so y'all are not in the way, right? That's where I'm at, right? So good luck to that school. But I think people, like I said, have got to really understand that this is the era to lay low as far as being on the national stage. They're looking for every reason to get us up out of here with everything under the sun. Like, even to the point where even with the deportations and ICE and everything, because like I said before, I know people are always like, oh, that ain't our business, blah, 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 blah. I want to say one thing, because I'm starting to also see a lot of Black folks signing up to be ICE agents. Here's the thing, and this has always been my rule, right? You don't have to lead the charge to fight and protect, somebody else's, work against somebody else being oppressed, right? The goal is you fight and protect yours, right? You go and you fight, you make sure your people are good, but you don't actively participate in the oppression of somebody else. You never do that, right? Because you're no different than anybody else. So, but again, ICE is giving out these nice bonuses, and look how quickly people are able to just fold at a $25,000 bonus and blah, 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 blah. Like, this is how easy it is to get an entire country to turn on its own citizens by just paying people out. When I tell you integrity's out the window, and when you already don't have any integrity, and then you don't have any discernment, it's real easy to sign up to go do some BS and start ripping people away from their kids. Because I'm doing what I gotta do. And they know they have some shame with it. I just saw a clip. It was here in DC. It was on 14th Street, like 14th and U, right? And they randomly, it was a black dude and a white dude, and they randomly had like some Latino guy that they were putting in. And the black dude looked so uncomfortable. You know, he had the little thing on and the shades. And I'm like, because you know you're doing some bullshit, right? You know it, right? Embarrassing. We don't need to actively participate in the oppression of anybody else. Even for the groups that are in our way, I would rather we take care of our own and they go for it, but you should not be actively going out of your way to participate because, again, reciprocity is a thing. And people already have no problem screwing us over, so why are we wasting our time even jumping into that? And then when they get finished eating and chewing up everybody else, who do you think they're going after next? You're just speeding up the process for them to get to us. But anyway, a mess. All right, back to the chat. All right. And I don't want to hear nothing about no commas in there. It would have been the same thing. At this point, that's a lazy talking point, and it's already at this point. It's more so folks just want to be right. They're just gonna throw all logic out the window and hold on to that like crazy. All right. Everything that woman said that man was gonna do, he did. All right. Slick Installation said, it's really sad and disgusting how many people voted for stuff Trump clearly did in his last term and said he'd do it this time. Then they complained. No discernment. People really do not understand cause and effect, which is why I was on here going off for like the last 6 months before the election, because I'm like, I think people are missing the plot here, and everybody wanted to go tit for tat over things where I'm like, I hear what's being said, but we need to look at the bigger picture and what's in the long term. But everybody wanted to be in the moment. Everybody wanted to have that talking point because it's almost like a competition to see who can be the most pissed off and the most contrarian. Because that's the brand in 2025. Be contrarian to everything and pass it off as being intelligent. Okay, contrarianism is not interchangeable with radicalism or being revolutionary. It's not. You're just in the way. Anyway, somebody said 64% of Koreans in Georgia voted for a dump, and look what just happened. Oh, I was actually getting to that car play. I'm gonna hold that thought. I'm gonna get to that too, because I'm gonna get to that too. Somebody said, not gonna lie, that song is a bop. It was catchy. I was just like, they were a bunch of fools, but man, that whole band is gone. Everybody gone. All right, a mess. Roy and the W said we talk too much. Yeah, you got to learn to just move in silence sometimes. That's why I say start moving in code and stuff. Like, you got to sometimes just do stuff and just be done with it. Like, you don't talk about it after it's been successful and you're good and you ain't got to worry about it no more. We be laying out the blueprints for everybody. They already know what we're getting ready to do, right? And then folks be late and ideas don't even be good sometimes. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, man. Okay. Somebody said, for shame on mainstream media. Mainstream media can kick rocks too. Like, I don't feel bad for what's happening with mainstream media because they bought into all this. They enjoyed, and like I said, this has always been about profit. One of the reasons we have a lot of what we have is because they platformed a lot of the wrong people. They platformed a lot of people who were detrimental to the livelihood of all of us for ratings, for ad revenue, for money, right? Like I said before, they wanted Orange Man to win the first time when he ran against Hillary. Why? Because, listen, I can't stand the man, but for people who like entertainment, he's entertaining to some folks. He is unorthodox. He is against the grain. They enjoyed watching the debates because he could roast and cook people. He didn't play the same political book as everybody else who was still moving in the old guard at the time. And so they recognize that, hey, he's giving us really great ratings. When I tell you mainstream media had some of the best ratings they've ever had in modern times covering this man. And so they knew, like, even when Joe came in, that's one of the reasons why a lot of times you notice the media always had these like underhanded back insults to anything Joe did, right? Every single time, you know, even if they had an accomplishment, it'll be something like, oh, Build Back Better bill just passed, but why that's a bad thing for Democrats? Like it was like that's something that just kept going on and on and on. Like they bought into the nonsense because they were making money on it. Now we fast forward, Orange Man is in there, and who is he going after now? Media. Media is now, because they've always done the narrative of media's public enemy number one, and so these very same companies that pretty much sold us out because they wanted high ratings and they platformed a lot of really terrible people are now at the mercy of these same terrible people. So play silly games, win silly prizes, right? Mess. All right. Mimi B, if you still think the Dems are the good guys, you've been fooled. This is the problem I'm talking about. It's not a conversation of good versus bad, right? And at this point, we can talk about whatever flaws the Democrats have, but who's in power right now? Who is running the shots and who's doing everything and who's allowing it to happen? So the smoke that you may want to have for Democrats, you can warrant it when they're in power and aren't doing anything right. But right now we're living through what Republicans are doing. So this whole both parties are the same. Like I said, to me, it's a very 2016 talking point. We've now been around long enough to see cause and effect of what's happening. Now, I don't see Democrats as our savior to anything. They're both two political parties where at the end of the day, it's about money for both of them. But one party is actively going to strip away the rights of everybody, and they're doing it in real time. The other party is the party that tries to paint themselves as the hero, but their flaw is that they are the umbrella for everybody that's not a white, straight man. And so when you have everybody else under the umbrella, there's no way everybody's going to get what they want, because some of the things that some people in the group want work against another group and vice versa and so on and so forth. And so that's the flaw that they have. They overpromise and underdeliver. On the flip side, when we're talking Republicans, they do everything that they're going to do, but it's never something that benefits us. So the whole idea of constantly trying to, well, Democrats this, we can't keep whatabouting everything else. We're not in what about mode right now because we're living in what about right now, right? That's where we're at. We have public education that's pretty much gutted at the hands of Republicans and the people that they've appointed. Public health gutted at the hands of Republicans and the people that they've appointed. Healthcare is on the way out, don't worry, and it's about to get really bad. Please understand that when we're talking about these rural hospitals, by the time this big, beautiful bill finally really kicks in around 2027 and that Medicaid stuff happens, understand Medicaid is what's keeping a lot of these rural hospitals open. So when we get to these rural places and everything, and these hospitals start closing, and the nearest hospital's 3.5 hours away, good luck when grandpa has a stroke, right? You might as well just go ahead and make the funeral arrangements and just go ahead and bury him in the backyard, right? That's the reality. That's all at the hands of Republicans, right? When you're talking about all of the policy that has been gutted and stripped away, things that were already set as precedent, things that we never even really thought about because it was just, we're just used to going into a job and expecting to not be discriminated against when you apply for something. All that's out the window, right? That's not Democrats. Now, I will say Democrats, I think if we want to talk about where they could be a bit stronger, I wish they had a bit more fight sometimes. Because I think they still kind of play the look at how well behaved we can be game. And I'm like, it doesn't work anymore. The old guard has died, right? That's done. The days of what we remember in the 90s or early 2000s where, these politicians would duke it out, but have decorum with how they did things, even though the policy would still be terrible. That's over with. At this point, it's duke it out. That's the critique I have for Democrats. But right now, I'm not going to let the annoyance that I have with Democrats give a pass to Republicans to do what they do. And so, again, I say all that to say the idea of good and bad that's not what our politics is. Our politics is reality of what policy is created to make life decent for everybody. How does the things that are signed or how are the things that are implemented, what does that mean for us today and tomorrow and for our children and their children? What does that mean for the future of jobs? What is it? Because really, as the United States is burning bridges with all of these different countries all around the world and destroying partnerships, these other countries are like, okay, well, since y'all are tripping, don't worry about it. Look, you got China and Brazil. Hey, they best friends now. They doing all kind of commerce and everything. Brazil's economy is about to skyrocket in about 10, 15 years if they can keep the relationship they have with China. All these other countries that the United States has decided to kind of exile because for some reason we're acting like we're hot shit now, and really our livelihood depends on everybody else in an interdependent relationship of commerce. Us burning all those bridges, we're going to feel it. Don't think just when Orange Man is out of office, stuff is going to be better. And that's where it's going to get crazy. Orange Man will get out of office. Probably a Democrat gets back in. But they're going to have to play cleanup to all of the nonsense that's happening now. And we're going to go right back in the same cycle where folks are going to be like, hey, Democrats ain't doing enough. This is why. And then y'all going to get mad and put another Republican right back in office. And we're going to do this again and again and again. So the whole good and bad, I never bought into that. I don't think there's good and bad anything. I just think politics is a reflection of where people are at in the time that we're in, because the politics of the United States don't mirror the politics of everybody else in the world. We're having a really terrible time in our economy and everything, but that's not the reality for a lot of other countries who are doing just fine. We decided to stop investing in the people. We decided to stop investing in infrastructure, into the sciences, into the things that matter, because we decided everything was about business, and we prioritized billionaires and insurance companies and the banks. And then we started stripping away the laws to make it harder for, to make it easier for private companies to take over public services, because that's what's happening right now with the federal government. They're stripping down all of these agencies to make them inefficient, to the point where eventually you can either close them or privatize them, get somebody else to buy them. They're trying to do that with the U.S. Postal Service. They're trying to do that with K-12 education. They're trying to do that with literally everything. And again, this is all at the hands of Republicans. So if we're going to bring up the conversation of whatever Democrats are doing, and we're putting them on a seesaw, this seesaw is not balanced. If this is Democrats and this is Republicans, Republicans got this seesaw so high with all the stuff that they're doing. So that's just where I'm at. Anyway, yeah, like again, I just said, just discernment, people, discernment. This is how we got here now, because we were having the same conversations before November, and everybody was fighting me. Y'all kept using that one clip about what old girl said she wasn't gonna do for black folks. And even when I gave the context of the clip, y'all weren't, nope, you making excuses for her. Okay, I'm just telling you, if this is the one offense, I'm offended at it, but there's 50 other offenses on the other side I think we should be more concerned about. But so be it. So here we are. I don't feel like doing I told you so, because at this point it don't matter. Where do we go from here? Anyway, speaking of, right, let's go to the Supreme Court story. Let me pull that up while we're at it. Make it make sense. Yes, here we go. Okay. This is why I said everything still affects us. Even if you think you're not being impacted, give it a minute. Supreme Court lifts restrictions on roving ICE raids in Los Angeles. All right. The ruling blocks a lower court's order that found the enforcement operations were based on impermissible factors. All right. We already know the Supreme Court we can't depend on for anything. So the Supreme Court has lifted restrictions that barred the Trump administration from carrying out immigration-related raids in Los Angeles area based on broad criteria such as speaking Spanish or gathering in locations day laborers often congregate. The justices who apparently divided 6-3 along ideological lines put on hold a federal district judge's order that reined in what critics called roving raids by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The judge had found that the tactics were likely unconstitutional because agents were detaining people without probable cause. Please remember this conversation of probable cause, because that's where we're at car washes, bus stops, and Home Depot parking lots based on stereotypes, right? The High Court's majority offered no explanation, because at this point, they're making so many bad choices, they don't even want to talk about the reasoning behind it, because they don't have a way to justify it, for its decision to grant the Trump administration's emergency appeal to block the district judge's order. However, Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote separately in support of the decision, saying it was reasonable to briefly question people who meet multiple common sense criteria for illegal presence, including employment in day labor or construction and limited English proficiency. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented. We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work on a low-wage job. Justice Sotomayor wrote, joined by forces Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, rather than stand idly by while our Constitution freedoms are lost, I dissent. The Justice Department complained in an emergency appeal last month that the court ordered limitations amounted to a straitjacket for law enforcement officers carrying out President Donald Trump's mass deportation policy. However, immigrant rights and civil liberties advocates accused federal officers of stopping Latinos solely because they were speaking Spanish or present at home improvement store parking lots or car washes. With nearly half the population in LA of Hispanic origin, such a broad brush approach is certain to sweep up many U.S. citizens and legal immigrants, advocates say. Sotomayor said in her dissent that the Supreme Court precedent makes it clear that immigration officers cannot rely on ethnicity alone to make stops seeking potentially undocumented immigrants. And ethnicity and language are often intertwined. So relying on only those 2 factors is no different than relying on ethnicity alone. She says adding certain types of businesses to the mix was plainly insufficient to make stops illegal. I'm going to stop there. The point that I want to highlight in that is the Supreme Court has literally made it okay to racially profile, right? So again, we know who they're going after, but that also changes the precedent for everybody else. Because at this point, if any other governor or politician or somebody decides in their state that they want to, they want to start specifically targeting neighborhoods in Chicago and Brooklyn and Baltimore and Atlanta, in Houston, Dallas, because certain groups hang out over there, they want to start doing surveillance, this, that, and the third, they now have a leg to stand on, because they can say the Supreme Court allowed it in California. We're just doing the same thing. What's the difference? We're all American, blah, 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 blah. And that's the issue. That's the thing that people really kind of need to pay attention to. So when everybody's like, oh, this doesn't affect me, everything eventually gets back to us. Like I said a million times on this channel, when it comes to race, nothing is set in precedent. Nothing's precedent. And so the idea of allowing agencies to racially profile, again, literally every police-related death that I've covered dealing with somebody who's Black and unarmed was what? A situation of racially profiling, right? What does that mean in the future when there's a situation and somebody has a run-in with an officer and something happens and they pass on? Is that ruling going to be something that's utilized in that criminal case against that police officer? They already have qualified immunity thanks to the hands of Orange Man, again, Republican policy, right? Well, what does that move? So like everything always will find its way back to us. So that's why I say, even though, you know, we're watching other groups feel the brunt of their choices, those choices still eventually come to our doorstep as well. And then I think this also brings in the conversation of those who look like us, but are of other ethnicities, right? So what does this mean for somebody who appears to be Black, but they're Dominican or they're Puerto Rican, right? Or they're from Venezuela, or they're from Brazil, or they're from wherever else, right? You know, they speak a different language and they're being profiled. These are still people who, again, fall under that bubble of what is going to fall into that conversation of profiling. And when it gets to those court cases, then it's all going to still be protected under law. So those are things to really think about. And again, we know Supreme Court is just wherever they're at. And now at the same time, they'll say it's okay to use race when it comes to racially profiling, but it's not okay to use race when it comes to college admissions. So they're still not budging on affirmative action, right? That's still not budging. They're still not going to budge on some of the things that have been stripped away when it comes to fair housing. They're still not budging on that. They're not budging on some of the things that are being stripped away when we talk about fair jobs. Like none of that's changing. So again, you're seeing the double standard in how all of this works, right? And so again, and even with that, this is why I'm like, people got to be serious in their politics, because when I was reading the comments, somebody was like, this is why we need to boycott the Supreme Court. I said, what? Remember that clip I used to always reference from, I think it's Jerry Springer with the woman. I don't know what the guy told her, but what? How do you boycott the Supreme Court? They work the land of the law. They enforce and make the laws and say what is the law land. You can't boycott what's the law, right? That makes no sense. This is why people are unserious. It's the same thing where like when you see certain things and you'll read the comments and folks like, we need to just build our own institutions. I'm like, yeah, we've been saying that for how long? Yes, I agree. But now that that's understood, now how do we get to the next step? Nobody ever gets to the next step. They just say the same talking point because it sounds good. Like, my God, what is in the water, people? All right? All right, let's see here. This is why I'm really in a space where people really need to get active with a lot of these grassroots organizations. Stop looking to other politicians to be your savior, because a lot of them are playing into the same game, or they're thinking about their reelection, or they're walking on eggshells, or so on and so forth. Even some of the candidates that I do kind of like some of their policies, they still have things that I don't agree with. And I'm like, damn, that, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. But again, this is why I'm like, really tap in. Like I've been saying, this is the time to really get into the conversation of community and learning to think collectively. If you're still moving as an individual in 2025, you're in the way, right? If you're still moving as an individual where it's just about me, myself, and I, and the hell with everybody else, stuff is eventually getting to your doorstep, whether it be something health related because they didn't change all the health regulations and ain't no telling what kind of air we'll be breathing because we got all the deregulation with the EPA and that's been gutted and we see what's happening. We saw the story coming out of St. Louis with how they knew the air was bad with the stuff that they're doing to the residents in St. Louis and didn't care because those people were Black. We talked about what's been happening in Memphis with the data centers and the water and how it's affected the schools and so on and so forth. We're seeing what's happening. It's getting to everybody's doorstep at some point. And so even if you have money, right, people can't even buy their way out of some of this stuff. It's hitting everybody, right? So again, this is why I say this is the time to be in community. This is not the time to try to be me, myself, and I and act like I'm so strong and I'm so above. And y'all need that victimhood. You got to change your mindset. Y'all don't know how the game work. I can show you how the game work. And then they start a podcast and be saying some more nonsense. And then somehow they go from that to the problem with Black women is, and then they get to that. And then it's the fathers ain't in the home and she don't know how to raise them. And I'm like, well, are we going to talk about why the father's not in the home? All right. Everybody know everything with no discernment. So people, wake it up. All right. Anyway, I believe that's all my heavy stuff. We can now make it a little bit lighter for the rest of the night. I did get a chance to watch. Actually, let me do the chat. I'm sorry. Let me read some comments and then we'll wrap up the heavy stuff. There's so many other topics to cover, but I need to make some more pre-made content throughout the week. So I'll kind of be doing that because I definitely was like going for a month. Let's see here. Okay. All right. We are saying, let's see here. Somebody said, correct. I couldn't even imagine trying to snatch up other folks when they were doing that to black folks 67 years ago. That's where I'm at. I just don't believe in actively participating in the oppression of other groups, right? And so this is why I was really like pissed off with, I will say with the last administration, I was annoyed with everything that happened with Israel and Gaza. Even though at least they were trying to call for a ceasefire at one point, I still feel like, dang, we need to cut ties with Israel. I'm sorry. Israel is bringing us down. It is what it is, right? And then we've seen what happened once the other side got in. It's now going to be the Gaza Riviera. I'm like, even worse, right? That's why I kept saying discernment. You might not always get everything you want, but at least work with the people you have leverage with. We don't have leverage with the people in charge right now at all, right? Somebody said we don't have media, all the black podcasters. I'm not even about to read that comment. All right. By the way, I want to make one thing clear here. On this channel, I support all black people, right? I don't have black people that I approve of and black people that I don't approve of. As long as you are a black person that works collectively and is not in the way of progress, I have love for everybody. So I don't believe in like targeting specific groups of our collective because you don't agree with their lifestyle or what you want to deem as their lifestyle, when in reality, that's who they are. I don't agree with that. Just make that clear. Let's see. Hi, Calvin. Have you seen the redecorating Orange Man has done to the Oval Office in the White House? So, first of all, I'm mad because I thought we'd be having his funeral this week. I was one of them people I was almost speaking in tongues when I thought that they said he was on the way out. I was like, oh, please. And then he did that press conference. I was like, damn, he didn't even trip up the stairs or nothing. But no, that little cement block looks very tacky. Yeah. Just Leah said, vote with what aligns with your values. Let's see. I like this comment, crazy homebody girl. Once you look at the parties as just resources, then you look at it differently. I go by who I can extract resources from, which tends to be Dems. I will say we need a new party. Like that's the point I'm trying to make. Like I want people to get out of the habit of being fans of politicians or thinking that you have to like latch on to a politician or a party and ride with them all the way through like it's a sports team. That's not reality. Like I said, politics in the United States is very complicated, but it's also very simple. It's just about who do you have leverage with? Who's in your corner in that moment? If somebody has a history of always being in the way, then okay, they've showed you where they are, right? So what other options are there? Like it's just about like looking at everything and really, again, harping on what's actually happening locally and just being a bit more in the know. I just think we're so, again, the fact that the majority, the biggest voter demographic in the United States are the non-voters, right? We still have so many who choose, they just think what it is, right? That should tell you something, right? That should kind of be alarming. Where my thing with voting, I know people, like for me, it's literally going and checking a box. That's it. You're not, if folks will act like going to vote is like giving birth without the epidural and giving birth to triplets that are 14 pounds each, and one of them is breech. And I'm like, it's literally going and checking a box. It's literally looking at whoever is offering what, even if it's 3 candidates and they all suck. Well, which one sucks the least? Which one sucks the least? Where damn, maybe we'll learn in the next go round. I'll rally and get behind somebody new to come in there and make it a better playing field. But in this moment, which one of these people can do the least damage? Like harm reduction. We don't even have harm reduction conversations anymore. Everybody wants to dream ideal candidate, which has never been a thing. Please name one ideal candidate that was perfect in the history of this country. You're not going to find one. Even the ones that people love, there's still something they did that's flawed, right? As much as people love Barack Obama, we can't sit here and ignore that them Syrian drones killed all those children. Right? We can't ignore that he called them kids in Baltimore thugs, right? But we can also highlight some of the things that he did that were good in the moments where they were there, right? And so again, politics is not about being the fan of somebody. It's not about making them your identity. Like all the cute nicknames and the this, that, I don't do none of that. Like what you got for us, right? Why do you all of a sudden get the urge to want to be a part of something that's so chaotic? Like you really got to ask that question. Politics is not a fun game. People do get rich from it, but politics is very cutthroat. So if you're signing up to jump into this cutthroat space, why is it? What is it that you're so passionate about? Let me see what your platform is. Let me see what it is that you stand behind, what it is that you want to protect or what you want to get rid of or what you want to give, right? That's how we should be approaching politics. But we've made it so much about the personality of the candidates. Well, I didn't like her laugh. I don't think I can have a beer with this guy, right? I don't like what they wear. Like these are the things that people are using as justification for moving the way that they move. Crazy to me. So yeah, literally, y'all can throw any candidate in the chat and try to use them as a what about when they. It doesn't move me because I'm not married to none of these people, right? Anyway, K80 said Doge gave all of our personal federal data to Plantier for surveillance purposes, which they did. And again, even when we talk about all skin folks and kin folks, I want you to look at who is one of the originators of what is it called again? Planeteer. They look just like this. That's all I'm saying. They're one of the richest people in the world too. So pay attention to some of these folks. Now, Mimi, this is a point I do agree with. I just lost the part. Damn, Mimi, I just saw the comment I was about to read that you had. It was a comment about the businesses. Where's that at? I just saw it. Let me scroll back up. Policy is supported by officials that take money from donors. Yes, we know that. The companies who pay the donors are the real bosses, not Orange Man, not Biden, not Biden. Yeah, we got, yeah, that's established. But again, and to that point, that's why I even say, pay attention to who these corporations are donating to, right? It should tell, like, even when I saw like companies donating to the inauguration fund, we don't even have to do that because the taxpayer dollars already cover that. So like that should tell you something right then and there. Like, yeah, these corporations, everything is bought out. Like I've always said on this channel, once you can take the money out of politics, things will get a lot better. When we have these super PACs and corporations that can purchase candidates and lobbying groups that can, and lobbying groups are not always a bad thing. There are lobbyist groups that are, they're, what it is that they're lobbying for is for the betterment of people. But there are other lobbying groups that, aim to, again, strip away and take away and make things worse for other folks, but make some folks very rich. So it's like you kind of have to follow the money. That I totally agree with. Let me see. Okay, I want to keep it moving. Let me see. Somebody said, now y'all on Kamala. We don't have to talk about her, but somebody said Kamala Harris was an incompetent candidate. And I'm not even going to entertain this because look who she ran against. Let's not even talk about competency. Y'all just didn't like that lady because she was a woman. Moving on. I'm going to the next story. She wasn't a perfect candidate, but she would have been way better than what we got right now. And I would love when folks finally just accept that instead of trying to still hold on and make every justification as to why this man is in office. Like discernment again. Anyway, okay, so I did see that movie, the Unknown Caller on Netflix. Very interesting. First of all, I guess I can spoil it, right? Most of y'all seen it. Well, I'll try to talk in parables. Well, I'll just jump to the end. When I saw who was responsible for the nonsense, did I have her picture here? I'm going to try to talk about this without ruining the movie for those who have not seen it yet. It's a documentary on Netflix, right? So, boom. Okay. This lady here. If there is somebody who does not deserve to get into heaven, it's this lady, right? Understand, this woman was so vile, when you'd have to watch it to see what happens, that there are some people who don't deserve children. There are some people who are so low, there's not even a definition for it, right? Now, can I tell you the critique I had with this movie? The critique I had is that she got such a pass for the atrocities that she was involved with. And I'm like, this is the issue I have. And I think this is why we keep, again, running into some of the problems we have. Terrible people are always given, and I don't often call people terrible, but she's an example. People that do terrible things are often given so much grace in media and entertainment because it makes a good story. Because had I been in charge of this, she would have even had an interview, right? Even how this is set up. Like, look at. Let's talk optics. There's nice soft background. We have the sea green wall, the nice yellow chair. We have the snake plant and everything. The background alone tries to set it up to make it look like what this woman did wasn't as bad as what it was, right? And so the thing is, please watch it. Now, I'm going to be honest. I was bored, but I was like, they could have probably told this story in 25 minutes on a YouTube video. But anyway, very wild to me. And I don't know how her child, what kind of relationship they're going to have or how this moves on. But I think there's a lot of people who are just, my God, that's all I'll say. Very wild watch. Very wild. Like I didn't see it coming the way when I said, excuse me? Wow. so like I really had nothing on that. That I was just about to turn it off when that part came on. I said, oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Like, okay, because I was getting bored, right? People are just, but yeah, it's like they constantly give the worst people a pass, right? And they always love to retell the narrative. Like, even with politics, when I started seeing like some of the stories that come out around like January 6th and how even that's kind of being retold now, like, this is why I always believe in like us telling our narratives and really documenting things and holding on to things. Because it's like, man. Okay, scrolling up, I'm gonna read a few more comments, and then the rest of the night, I'm talking music and whatever y'all want to put in the chat. I can hang for about another 30 minutes, and then we're gonna call it a day, right? Somebody said you need to talk about Kamala's and a Secret Service being removed. Well, fortunately, in her case, she has the kind of money to pay for her own, agency and everything else like that. But normally, for the vice president, they get 6 months of protection, and then it's up to the current president whether they want to extend it or not. But Orange Man is petty, so he knows what he's doing. And he did it just in time for her book tour. So I'm like, yeah, I know what y'all are trying to do, right? Let's see. Somebody said they're already doing surveillance. Yeah, that once they did the Patriot Act, what was that? Early 2000s? So even when they talk about all of our data is this, I don't even really be that concerned because they got all our stuff anyway. And if you're on social media, they got all your stuff anyway. Somebody like me who has a platform with 80,000 people, I don't really get a whole lot of privacy. All my business is everywhere. So it is what it is. I don't have nothing worth stealing. So unless you want to steal my music, good luck. But then, that's just about it. But, okay. Burkina Faso. Yes, France. Y'all still playing in the people's faces. Yeah, y'all playing in their faces. Let's see. Tyson Beauty said, "LOL, who and what in Baltimore did he call thugs?" That was back in 2014. This is after the Troy Davis police situation. Remember Troy Davis? He was the one whose neck was broken in the back of the paddy wagon. And then there was an Orioles game in Baltimore. The Orioles Stadium is right there. The kids were all getting out of school. And some of the kids were also going to some of the rallies. And then a lot of those fans and the spectators that were outside of the Orioles game and at the restaurants right before decided to troll and kind of irritate and provoke a lot of those young teenagers and everything. And that kind of kicked off, a wave of what you call a reaction to hearing that somebody that looks like you has been killed by police and nothing is really going to happen. And so here come these protests. And then boom, there was that CVS that burned down. And around the same time as when Obama did the press conference and he called them teenagers thugs. And I was like, ouch, that was not how this was supposed to go, sir. But yeah. Anyway. Calvin, you're not afraid to be homeless after this bill? I don't know which bill you're talking about. But I do also need people to leave the homeless populations alone as well. I say that. Leave them alone. I don't like that. We criminalize, because that's also happening where we're seeing the laws where a lot of the laws are criminalizing being homeless. They're also criminalizing being poor. And that is a result of bad policy. Homelessness and everything else. We love to kind of paint it as people, it's just you're not working hard. Understand, the majority of people who are homeless have jobs, right? We often see the people that are panhandling on the street, or the guy in the wheelchair that was the Vietnam vet who's really not in their right mind anymore. You often see that, and you paint that to be the face of everybody who's homeless. And even if those are the people who are homeless, they still deserve to be treated like humans, right? And so just that whole idea of criminalizing that and, making it illegal to sleep on the bench and making it illegal to do this. And even with Orange Man, his idea for DC saying, well, the people that are homeless in DC have a choice. They can either go to the mental institution or the shelter. Every person that's on the street is not mentally ill. Like, I don't know how y'all let the dumbest of dumb people be in charge of everything, right? But they'll be the first ones talking about qualifications and anti-DEI this. But then please tell me somebody that's competent on that cabinet. Just one person, please. All right? Okay, thank you, Alan. Alan has something happy to talk about. I need to go to bed on a good note. Who do you think should get the Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award next? They're talking about the VMAs. They said they think Usher, Aaliyah, or Christina Aguilera. I support all those. I'd also say TLC gets left out of the conversation, but I don't think TLC has a single music video that is bad. I think they actually have really, really great music videos from every era. Even the videos from their very first era are very 1992, 1993, but they're so fun. But the cinematography and just the way that the 4 music videos from the Crazy Sexy Cool era were shot are beautifully shot. Creep is an amazing music video, right? Definitely ahead of its time. Well, it was ahead of its time, but it was jumping on a trend that was ahead of its time, because then we have to definitely reference Salt and Pepper's None of Your Business, which was the inspiration behind the Creep video, right? Creep is a beautifully shot video. Waterfalls, again, was literally a movie, right? Excellent plot line, everything. That's the reason why it was #1 for 8 weeks, just like Creep was #1 for 7 weeks. Red Light Special, shot beautifully. Digging on You is like watching a movie. Like, Digging on You to me is like the end of a happy movie. Like, I love that music video, right? We jumped to the fan mail era. No Scrubs video is a staple. I thought Unpretty might be their best video. And I'm talking about the full version, not the one they got out there that's like cut down to 4 minutes, but that long, like 5 minute and 30-minute version video. An amazing video. Everything about it. And even the videos from the 3D era were good. Girl Talk was cool. I didn't like the cartoon part because it made it kind of cheesy, but I did think Hands Up was shot very nicely, and I thought Damaged was a really, really great video. Another one that has great storylines, and I thought it was kind of cool with the puzzle pieces that told the story. Like, that was a really excellent video. Unfortunately, it didn't get its just due. Whatever. They have the Way Back video. That's at this point, this is the album they came out with in 2017. This is the GoFundMe album, but they don't have the same budget, so they don't get to do everything. But the Way Back video was still a nice video. I wasn't crazy over I think it's called Haters video, but it was still cool for what it was. It fit for the time. But I would say TLC could be a great contender. Who am I missing? Who else? Beyonce already got it, right? Destiny Child can get it. They got great videos too, right? All the Destiny Child videos are nice. You know, you got the No, and the remix. Those are okay videos, and With Me's an okay video. Get on the Buses when they start getting a nice budget, and that's a really nice video. Bills, shot beautifully. I also think that's the best that they've looked in a music video. They were all gorgeous in that one. Bugaboo's a fun video, including the Chopped and Screwed remix video is a fun one. Say My Name is a staple. Jumpin' was fun. Independent Women is a good video. I'm going in order of the singles being released. Survivor, great video. That was a staple in TRL back in the day. Bootylicious is a very fun video. One of my favorite singles from them. The remix video was good. Emotions was a good video. I even like the Mad TV parody. Very hilarious. What else is from that era? Oh, they had the Nasty Girl video. Wasn't released in America. That's a nice video. Lose My Breath. Man, when that song came out, and that was when I was still like doing choreography and stuff, like that was a fun song to choreograph too. I love that video. Fun video, great dance video. The best that they've ever danced in a video. Soldier was a dope video, and the fact that they shot it literally the day after they shot Lose My Breath. Great video. Girl, good video. Storyline. Cater to You, which is my favorite like slow jam from Destiny's Child. Beautifully shot video. What's that other song? Stand Up for Love is, it's a little bit more stripped down. It's just a ballad for the charity, but it's still a nice video. They have great videos. All right, so who else? Let me think of some male entertainers that did Prince ever get? I don't know if Prince ever got one. I don't remember who has all these awards. I'm trying to think back. If Prince didn't get it, I would say them. If No Doubt hasn't gotten it, I would say that group. Or Alanis Morissette if she hasn't gotten it already. I don't know who else. Kendrick Lamar has excellent videos. I would nominate Kendrick. I would even throw Drake in there. Drake has 100,000 music videos, and he got some good ones in there. Some of those videos were movements, right? The Hotline Bling video was a thing, and God's Plan was a thing, and there's a few of them. I didn't even know they were really still giving it out like that. But yeah, he got some. Somebody said, why is communism frowned upon? I think in the United States, any form of government that's not capitalism is frowned upon because we were taught that everybody else was bad. That whole conversation of good and bad again, especially socialism. They loved it. Look at what's happening in New York with the mayoral race and the way the word socialism is being thrown around. A lot of people throw the term socialism around, or they throw the term communism around. A lot of times they can't explain what it is. They've just heard all the bad things about it, so on and so forth. I think at this point in this country, like I said, any government system that is not capitalism is painted as bad. And unfortunately, because of that, when you've already mentally or it's just been collectively painted as something is terrible, people don't research anything else. But a lot of the things that everybody's asking for are socialist policies. When you're talking about everybody wanting like universal health care or wanting the government to help fund this and fund it, that falls under the conversation of socialism. Now with capitalism, I don't think capitalism is a bad thing, but I think the bad aspect of capitalism is the fact that there are no limitations to it and capitalism can exploit people. And that's the bad part of capitalism, right? Where somebody has to be the underdog or somebody has to be, you know, not as wealthy. That's the part of capitalism I don't support, where there aren't any rules to make sure that everybody has a fair shot. Everybody has technically, I guess, a fair shot, but people also have the fair shot to screw over other groups of people. That's the part that's kind of jacked up. Like Troy Body said, capitalism brought us slavery, right? Right? There's a reason Portugal couldn't wait to go and snatch up 5.8 million people, right? Portugal is making some good money snatching up everybody, right? Somebody said thoughts on Cynthia Erivo playing Shaka Khan. From what I read, that wasn't true. It was more of an internet thing that spread around, but I don't see that happening anyway. That doesn't even make any sense. I think she's an excellent singer, but she wouldn't be nobody Shaka Khan, so no. But no, that wasn't true. That was kind of something that found its way on the net and spread, and then everybody reacted to it. Oh, Ludacris, Kevin J. Stone, that's a great one. Ludacris has great videos. Yeah. Saturday, that was one of my favorite videos. Yeah, When I Move, You Move. I forgot the name of that song. The Get Back, You Don't Know Me Like That video. I got all these titles wrong. Yeah, he has some dope videos. Yeah. Ludacris definitely would be a great choice. Somebody said Mariah Carey looks beautiful. She always sounds beautiful. I will say Mariah Carey never looks bad in public. I had never seen a bad picture of Mariah Carey at an event. She always looks good. I can't believe she's just now getting her first MTV award, just like her first BET award. Crazy. But she's the Billboard queen, though. Let's see. I will say, I think with the Vanguard Award, there's going to be a lot of people who just never get it because MTV is just such a different company than it once was. And I think a lot of people who are there now don't even have the grasp on who is what from back in the day, right? What works in Mariah Carey's favor, and most likely why she got it, is because Mariah Carey is still very active, right? And she's still relatively known amongst the newer generations as well. But I think a lot of the people, even as some of the folks that we just talked about, maybe minus Destiny's Child, are not as well known to the newer generations. And so that's a thing that kind of works against folks. Somebody said, what about J-Lo? I feel like J-Lo already has that award, or she has some other award, because I remember us covering a VMA thing, and she performed a whole medley, and she got some kind of award. If she didn't get the Vanguard Award, she got something else. Let's see. Somebody said many people are one paycheck away from homelessness. That's almost everybody in this country. Yeah, and if it ain't one, it's two, right? Like, that's why I always try to have empathy for everybody, and I try not to judge folks in their situation, because anything can happen. Like, even again, I'm always talking about the federal government layoffs, but that's because I live in DC, so you're seeing it in real time. You know, there are people who worked in the federal government for 20, 30, 40 years, made really great money, might have been making six figures, making upwards of $200,000, and in the stroke of a pen, lost everything. I mean, some were fortunate enough to kind of, retire early or take some of the compensation packages to step down. But there are others who literally went to work and their badges didn't work. And that was it. No job, no nothing, no severance pay. Good luck. Life can change so quick. And in an area like this where it's expensive, where you're at least going to be spending $500,000 or $600,000 for a decent house, not even a nice one, but just decent. Yeah, it's crazy how much can happen here. And in an area like this where so many people have lost their jobs, and the main industry in this area is the federal government. It's like, well, where do people go? Because even the companies that are not in the federal government still have contracts with the federal government, and those companies are cutting contracts because of the cuts. And so it's crazy how things can happen. DC is definitely going through a recession. Let's see. Oh, Piscean Beauty. Yeah, Beyonce did win in 2014. And I remember now because that's when she did the medley from the self-titled album. That's when she had that like kind of like purple, silver, green outfit on. I remember that now. Yeah, I remember Missy one. Somebody said Christina as well. The MTV works weird, so the Vanguard might go to someone who's white. If they haven't given it to Taylor Swift, they're giving her one. And probably Justin Bieber too. Tyler, the Creator, that's an excellent choice. He also gives a really, really great show. Excellent concert. That's like the one rapper that I catch every time he comes to town, right? You know, it's hard to win me over at this big age of mine. So if you won me over at this point, then you're doing a great job. Because normally, you know, I see all the legacy acts, so there's not a whole lot of new folks that I go see. Even though I think I'm going to the Duckworth show on Saturday, all right? Let's see, because I think I told y'all last time he was here some years back, and I didn't get into the show because it was sold out. And then literally the next day, I was going to the bank to go to the ATM because I was in my neighborhood and I was driving. He just was on the bench. I'm like, hold on. No, I'm acting like I got an old like deuce and a quarter Pontiac, but no. I pulled up like, wait a minute, is that? I walked right up on it, and it was him. He was on the bench. I was like, hey, what's up? But I think I kind of scared him, startled him a little bit. But yeah, that was just really crazy. Let's see. Oh yeah, shout out to you. What's the name? It was let me make sure I got the name right. I think I wrote it down. I'm always running into people on the street. Oh, Talia. Sorry, that was the name. I ran into Talia on the street. Talia stopped me while I was on my way to go grab some food. So it was very nice meeting you as well. I always tell people, like, if you see me on the street, I usually will stop and give you a quick conversation or something. Like, I'm not one of those, like, too into themselves kind of folks. But, yeah, so nice meeting you as well. Let's see. Somebody said, y'all are messaging me on Instagram. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, so some of the music projects I've been listening to, by the way, I got a chance to kind of check out some projects. I really enjoyed the Chance the Rapper album. I think it's a step up from the last one. I think it's a very nice album, so check that one out. Sierra's album, oddly enough, I listened to it and it was cool, but then she came out with the deluxe version, right? The deluxe version, whatever them little 4 songs are at the end, are very nice. That also has that single Low that she just dropped, which is a really, really nice track. So I enjoyed the Sierra album. I like that she's still putting out music, right? I think a lot of the musicians and entertainers right now, because the industry, there's not really like a certain standard of how to do things. It's kind of just do what you want to do. If you can afford to do it, go for it. So I like that she's still constantly like putting stuff out there. Even if people don't support it, you know, she's going to stick with it. And it sounds like this current project is doing okay. So good for her. The Tiana Taylor project, some people didn't like the interludes with all the talking. I guess you have to kind of look at it in the same way you look at like a Lemonade. But I thought the songs on the album were okay. I'd love to produce for her. But yeah, I thought her stuff was cool. I like, what's her name? She just dropped an EP. What is that girl's name? Jay Stevens or Jay Steffens. I like her EP. She has some really fun music. So check her out. I like the Jane Hancock album. I think I talked about it on the last one. That's a really nice one. I already told you I like the Tyler the Creator album that just dropped as well. There's some cool projects that have come out. So yeah. Let's see. I want to say Dustin Conrad just dropped like a second project that's actually pretty nice. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, there's been some good projects. So I've been enjoying some of the people that are out there. Can you do a So What Happened on Whitney from My Love's Your Love to I Look to You? I love Whitney. So What Happens takes so long to make, but I am doing another one. I haven't figured out who I'm doing it on, but actually I'm not telling y'all because I told y'all I ain't saying it no more. It'll just come out, but I do have another So What Happened coming. Not anytime soon because right now I'm doing another music talks first, but there will be at least one more So What Happened before the year's out. And I will not announce it. It will just be there. That way I don't string you guys along. Y'all be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then it's 18 months before you get it. They just take a really long time to make. I could cut back maybe and make them a bit shorter and go back to like the first 4 episodes that were maybe like 1 hour and 10 and 20 minutes versus 3 hours or 2.5 hours. But the thing is, like, these people have had such extensive careers. I just want to make sure I give them just due or give them, you know, the justice to everything that they've had. Right. And so I really like take my time with it, but they're really time consuming to make. But I appreciate y'all for watching them. So yeah, we'll do one, but I love Whitney. She's one of my favorites. So I enjoy talking about her. And I think sometimes I get a little nervous about doing some people that folks have often done videos on, like, cause I probably won't do a Michael Jackson Invincible related one because there's a million Michael Jackson Invincible what happened with that project related videos. And I feel like the MJ fans have literally covered everything. There's like literally nothing I can tell you that hasn't already been presented, right? Yeah, so I probably won't do that one, but you know, we'll see. But there's some other folks coming. All right. Somebody said, can you check out a new girl named Natanya? Let me write her down. And then I'll get back to you on the next slide and tell you what I think. Natanya. All right. Book review on Tina's book. That was an excellent book. I enjoyed that read. When I drove down to where did I go? I went down to Richmond a few weeks ago, and I had the book playing when I went to Richmond. Really great book. And I had no idea the stuff that she and Matthew were dealing with had been going on since literally the beginning of the marriage. I thought all that stuff took place in the later years, like after 2010. But I think it's a really cool book to kind of just, if you want to read about like the relationship of like a parent that has a child that has a dream and how the parents sacrifice a lot to make things happen. But she also does an excellent job of just telling like the Black history of the people of like Galveston, Texas, and the portions of Louisiana where her family's from, and going back. Like it's about her, but it's also about just like the culture in which she comes from and where her family comes from. So it was a really great book. So excellent book. Let's see. Calvin, do you think Janet Jackson is going to make some new album, some new music? I don't know. I don't think Janet cares anymore. Like Janet is touring and Janet is ready to go and watch Issa enjoy being in 4th or 5th grade. And no, I think you'll get one more project, but I think that will be the I'm done making music project. And then maybe you get a single here and there. I think she might do maybe one more big tour. I don't think there's going to be a tour anytime soon. She's in Vegas now. And I don't think we're going to see her in 2026 and probably some of 2027. But yeah, I feel like you'll get the farewell tour, the farewell album or EP. Then you'll get a song here and there. Maybe she'll dive into acting, but I think she's going to start shifting into the quiet life. I think she did a lot of touring in the last few years to just set up her retirement and go, do her thing. And honestly, I don't mind. I was telling one of the subscribers earlier too, like, she's my favorite since childhood, but she's also 59. And so I understand it at this age, after you've done the arenas and the stadiums and the videos and the halftime shows and the award shows and the movies, and this, at some point, sometimes you're just tired. You don't feel like doing it no more. Or not even that you're tired, but you want to just enjoy life. Like, I admire the fact that like Gladys Knight is still touring and Patty and Smokey Robinson and all of them. But I think I can't imagine some of them. They love it. They're going to do it until they drop. Like that's what they want to do. But then there are some who have to do this because they have no other choice, because that's how they, pay their bills. I think somebody like a Janet doesn't have to tour anymore. So I think she's going to slow down. And I think, again, most of her peers are no longer even active in the industry except Mariah. Well, Mary just said she's done. She gave you the Gratitude album and the For My Fans tour. She said, don't ask her for nothing else. That's it. Right. So outside of that, the only Janet peers that are still active in music and releasing, right, is Mariah. Tony, I guess, had a project some years back, and she's in Vegas, I think, still. But the peers that she would have been in competition with back then, they've all either kind of retired or slowed, or TLC is kind of slowing down too. T-Bell's already said she's kind of ready to retire, so they're doing, some last shows and maybe squeezing in one tour. One of my good friends dances for them, by the way. I'm always like watching the clips and, like, this is so cool. I wish that was me. But let me see. So it's I can't think anybody else from that. Paula Abdul still tours, but I mean, these people aren't coming out with music. So, it's just a different day and age. And there's no money in music as far as releasing it, unless you can get people to physically buy your CD. Streams are giving you nothing. I just watched, there was a YouTube video with this indie artist who was talking about how she invested $100,000 into her indie project. And when it was all said and done, she made like $1,200 after it was all said and done. But I will also say she doesn't produce her music. Like, she worked with producers and stuff, so she had to give all of them their cut. And then, she, spent money on all her videos and all the other stuff and everything. But yeah, she made like $1,200. There's no money in it. So a lot of people are finding other ways. This is why you're seeing so many celebrities who now have podcasts and YouTube channels, or they're on TikTok and they're doing all these other things to kind of generate revenue because the streams are not bringing it in, right? So, Madonna. I left out Madonna. Madonna, I think, is in the studio. Madonna is somebody who's never going to retire. She's going to always do it. Madonna lives for this, right? I always said, to me, that was the difference between Janet and Madonna. Like, they both, you know, defy the era of like 80s, 90s, 2000s. But Janet, to me, was never pressed. Like, she was successful, but I never saw her as somebody who always wanted to be on top. She was cool being number 3 or number 4. Like, she was just cool with it. Like, okay. But somebody like Madonna, to me, I think, to her, those accolades and stats, that is her bread and butter. She needs to be number 1. She needs to be the top. So she's always gonna push the envelope and still do everything. Like, that's where she's at. Janet is like, I had my fun. I'm gonna go on this tour. I'm gonna do the greatest hits. I'm gonna throw some new ones in here, but I'm only doing 4 dancers because I'm not paying for 8 more dancers. You're not getting no pyro because, you know, this is it. And for her, it works because she has enough showmanship where she doesn't need a lot to keep you entertained. But yeah. Anyway. Let's see here. We're about to wind down. I'm ready to go to bed. I did like Coco Jones's project. That was nice. I do like her too. She's great live too. I listen to Earl Sweatshirt? I did not. I'm gonna write that person down too. Yeah, I need some new music for the gym. Right? I be trying to update my gym playlist. Have you spoken to Kelly Price? Oh, with her comments about. Okay, here's my thing. Her comments to me seem more geared at just people on the internet who troll and always talk trash and are vile and nasty. That's fine. But I have a problem with whenever somebody from the collective does something offensive, we blanket statement the whole collective. I can't stand whenever I hear somebody say, black folks this and black. As soon as I hear that, I kind of check out. Because it's kind of like, even with like black businesses, right? People will have one bad experience and then this is why I don't support black business. I think we got to get out of the habit of publicly like tearing our own down. Whatever she was fussing about, that's the individuals or the people that were mad about whatever. That's not black people collectively. And I think it's weird to say black women are the biggest haters and so on and so forth when that's your core audience, okay? Because white men in Montana are not buying Kelly Price albums, but black women are. So I'm like, that's your core audience. So why would you trash them? Because there are some that pissed you off or said whatever they didn't like. That would be like me cooking black folks on here when there are folks who don't agree with me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So good luck to that. And it doesn't help. You know, I don't think she has the best relationship with social media. So that doesn't help either. But good luck to her. Sade. They wouldn't give Sade the Vanguard Award. MTV played Sade videos, but they ain't playing like that. Sade sold a lot of records though. But no, Sade doesn't care. Sade is at her potato farm, enjoying her life. Somebody said Nerd Lars, Janet got blackballed unlike Madonna. Yeah, and I think after the blackballization, Janet really was like, I tried to do the best I could with Demita Joe, and y'all didn't want it. So you know what? I'm gonna drop these out. Like, just think, every album after Demita Joe, well, 21 had a promotional campaign. She just couldn't use MTV. She did the magazines and everything. But like Discipline and Unbreakable, you get Discipline had 1 week of promotion. Unbreakable got no promotion. Unbreakable got a tweet. Janet released her album and she was in France. She wasn't even here. I said, Janet, okay. Like Janet, man, and they were like Discipline. She fell out with LA Reid the week the album came out. So there was that. So yeah. But I think I think it's a lot. And when you do something for such a long time, it's a great experience. But you know, your peers and stuff move on. Everybody gets older. People go in different fields and stuff. It's not the same. You're not really trying to run and stay caught up with 20-year-olds and keep up with the new kids and everything. It's tiring. So I think a lot of artists, again, they like to kind of fall into their legacy and let it be and let it speak for itself. Right? Or they repurpose their stuff. I could see her going into more acting. She should do more acting. Somebody said Diana Ross came out with a tour recently. And by the way, y'all need to stop whacking Diana. Diana has finally started lip syncing at this point. And it's because she still performs her songs in the same key as when they were released. But Diana's in her 80s. So her voice is not as bright and youthful anymore. But as of the last year, I've seen clips where it's literally the album playback on the stage. I'm like, ooh, Diana, come on. It's not on every song, but it's on some of those earlier ones. Like I said, I took my godmom to see her in the top of 2020, right before the pandemic. And it was an excellent show. But yeah, these people are getting older. So I think as these people get older, you have to know what to expect. Like when I go and see any of my, like, if I see Janet, I already know I don't expect her to pull out the nunchucks and bring out the Miss You Much chair and then try to do the backflip like the nasty video. I don't expect none of that. I expect her to come out. She's gonna get her steps in. She'll give you the dance break on the big dance numbers. Like even Rhythm Nation, she don't even really perform the whole song the same way no more. She'll do that quick dance break, but as far as all the other choreography, she don't really do it no more, right? So you'll get your All For You breakdown. You'll get your If breakdown. Miss You Much, you might get a little something. She might get on the ground on You Want This. And then the rest of the choreography is kind of based around her pacing herself. Because again, to expect somebody that's almost 60 to still do all the choreography from the music videos when they were 20 something is unrealistic, right? I just saw that clip of Bad Bunny with his knee. Oh, let me pull it up while I'm at it. Can I pull that up and hopefully YouTube doesn't flag me? Let's see. Actually, you know what? I'm not even about to play with YouTube. They about to strike this video. But you saw the clip where he was just kind of like jumping and his knee went out. I was like, damn. Now he's younger than me. He ain't supposed to be going out at 31, right? So that's reality. Let's see. Do you consider yourself a liberal? No, I don't consider myself anything. Like, I think I have viewpoints that fall in all of the different spectrums on certain things. I think my viewpoints align sometimes with some things that liberals have. Sometimes it aligns a little bit more to what the left has. Sometimes I'm a bit more moderate on things. I don't like the ideas of putting the labels because I think when you put the labels, then it makes people think they have to like stay in a certain umbrella, right? And then those are things that get weaponized. But I will say a lot of the policy I get behind tends to be very like forward thinking, right? Making sure my politics are two things: leave everybody alone, right? And then how can we make things better for everybody? Those are my politics, right? That's where I'm at because I feel like you move in that realm, everybody wins. I want everybody to win so everybody can be happy and everybody can just do their own thing. When folks are unhappy or folks aren't financially well off, then they find something to be mad about. And now everybody's the bad guy. And now they actively become politically involved out of spite to make other people suffer. And I think that's an issue, right? And my politics right now, leave folks alone. Right? Leave people alone and watch how things change. As long as folks are not doing anything to hurt or disenfranchise others, leave folks alone, right? If folks want to marry who they want to marry, leave them alone, right? If folks want to, what else is on the chopping block? I don't know. Everything that's under the sun, everything. Like if folks collectively in their communities want to start grants or programs to benefit others in their community by starting scholarships, let them do it, right? Why are you worried about what a group of Black folks are doing for Black folks? Right. That's our business. Right. So that's where we're at. Let's see. Damn, y'all are doing this whole dissection here. All right. Did you like Cardi's Bodega Baddie teaser? It's fun. Wait, what was that? Is that when she was in Brooklyn, like out in the street with like the records on the thing, and she was pretending she was like selling like how the vendors do? I don't know if that's what you're talking about. I don't know. I mean, she's fun to watch. I think she's entertaining. I did see The Biggest Loser documentary, which horrible show, by the way. I've never watched the show. I never liked the show anyway because I feel like it's unrealistic. Like the stuff that those people had to do, I was like, nobody can commit to doing that every day. Like the kind of workouts they were doing is like you're trying to kill these people, and then they got to be called fat and slobs and all this other stuff. And then they would have like challenges where they already haven't eaten for 3 days, and then they walk into a room and it's all kind of burgers and chicken nuggets and nachos on the table. I'm like, this is terrible. This is so mean, right? And I think because I had, like I told you, I had my cousin Michaela, who you may remember from the podcast, who had Prader-Willi syndrome, where her body doesn't tell her when she's full. So she was always hungry and she couldn't help it. And because it's also, it affects one of the chromosomes. So mentally, she just moves a little bit different. And there's different stages of Prader-Willi syndrome. Hers wasn't too bad. It was just, she was always hungry. But there are other kids who have it where it's so bad, any element of food they're going to eat. Like it's to the point where, how like the lunch tables in the cafeterias have that rubber trace around it. If it's like one of those wooden tables, there's some kids who would literally take their nail or a toothpick and scrape in between that rubber and the wood and eat whatever was on that toothpick, like because they just couldn't help it. So when I see like, it would get to my point though. So there will be some moments where she'd have episodes because if we went to the mall, we knew we couldn't come in on the side by the food court because as soon as she smelled the McDonald's and the Wendy's and stuff, she's going to lay out on the floor and stuff. And with her condition, it's also like an element of dwarfism. So she was like 4'6", I think, maybe she was like 4'9", right? And she also was extremely overweight because at the same time, people with Prader-Willi syndrome also have underdeveloped organs. So when it comes to the treatment, people often have a choice between doing the growth hormones or not doing the growth hormones. But sometimes if you don't do the growth hormones, your organs don't develop properly. But if you do the growth hormones, everything grows. So when you already are hungry all the time, your body doesn't really quite have a metabolism, right? And then you're on growth hormones, you balloon, right? So she was hundreds of pounds by the time she died. I'll say for her, a lot of people with her condition normally don't live past 12 or 13. She lived to be 21. But I'd say like thinking back, we would go to the mall. If we went in on the wrong side, we couldn't afford for her to have a tantrum lay out on the floor because we can't pick her up, right? Like we can't, all of us, right? And so those kind of things you have to think about. So I was kind of sensitive to something like Biggest Loser and hearing how some of these people were talked about on the show. So I never watched the show. And especially after that, I really don't like Jillian Michaels after them comments from the last thing. So, that's people's reality. And I think I get that things are entertaining, but it's so easy for us to let other people's detriment be our entertainment, which is, I don't know. So that wasn't my show, but I did see the documentary, wild stuff. It's called Prader-Willi syndrome. I can't think of who else. There's one celebrity I know that has it, but I cannot think of who they are. So yeah. Somebody said, yeah, it's humiliation as opposed to actually trying to push healthier lifestyles. Like, okay, so if I were going to do like a show like that, remember Celebrity Fit Club on VH1? Like, I thought that one was a bit more realistic. They still did certain things for entertainment, but that was one with celebrities that wanted to lose weight. So rather than calling all the people slobs and all this other stuff, it was just you went with them on their journey. They had regimens that they had to stick with. They had diets they had to stick with, and they weighed in every week, and they did challenges and stuff. It still had its moments, but it wasn't as cruel as actually it wasn't really cruel at all. The only sad part is I think the people got to vote off who they would vote off their team. That was the only part that was kind of messed up. But yeah, like that was that. Like that approach, I think. But sensationalizing people's experience to the point where folks were excited to audition to go on a show. Like I didn't like that. So yeah. Somebody said yes with Dustin Diamond and Takara. Yeah, because see, I felt bad when they voted Takara in that group that time because she started crying, and I felt so bad because she was like, "I tried, I really tried. I even did the fast with the frozen vegetables." I was like, "Damn, why y'all do that to Takara?" And what pissed me off is like Takara just was busty. It's so crazy what we used to consider like I don't like to use the word fat out of respect for everybody's journey, but like what people used to call fat back in the day, like Takara when she was on the model show. She was just busty. Like they made it seem like she had to walk in the door sideways on that show. I'm like, you know what? So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Oh, that pissed me off too, Alan. He said the way the white guy talked about the black lady and had no remorse in the Biggest Loser documentary was disturbing and disgusting. Yeah, so yeah, I never watched that show. Couldn't get to it. I'd never seen an episode. I knew what it was, but I never watched it. It makes me think back. There was another show that came out in the 2000s, but it didn't last long. Remember The Swan, right? The Swan was the show where people who did not think they were attractive could go and they could get plastic surgery. And then, because it was the idea of the ugly duckling into the beautiful swan, I said, see, y'all ain't itch for that. And let me see if I can pull it up. I want to see if I can find it. Or at least a picture from it. Swan TV show. Okay, they got these pictures here. Actually, I don't want to use these. What's this? Okay, I'll use this one. Okay, so The Swan, like I was saying, it was this show where hold on one sec. Oh damn, I opened it in the wrong thing. Let me put it here. Crap, hold on one sec. The Swan TV show. All right, here we go. Okay, so The Swan, if I can get this to open or need it to open. Need the window. Here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, it was like this TV show where, again, it was the people who didn't see themselves as attractive, and they would go, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. They would go and get all this plastic surgery, and they weren't able to, so like they get the plastic surgery, but the room that they're in, there were no mirrors, there's nothing with reflection, so they wouldn't get to see how they looked until the very, very end. And so what was wild to me is there's these people who, I don't like my nose, or I don't like this, I don't like that They go in a room and some random doctor or some random guy gets to dictate what's wrong with their face, right? And then they pick and choose what they're going to do to these people. And the people go and get the nose done and the eyebrows arched and the teeth removed and the veneers put in and the ears pinched back and the hairline brought down and the eyebrow lift and the this and the that and the cheek implant and everything. And then at the end, they vote for like who won, who's the swan of the whatever. Like that was wild to me. And so I was not really a fan. Let me see. The women weren't told in advance that it would be a competition. Oh wow! See, they didn't even know that part. The ugly duckling photos were staged to be as ugly as possible, right? See, this is messed up. Show creator filled in as life coach when the hiree dropped out of the show. All right, meaning they don't have any experience being a life coach. Some of the women had to pay for their own surgical repairs after the show. Wow to me. Even one of the producers felt that what they're doing was wrong. The doctors performed months worth of surgery in 2 weeks, right? Wow. Ain't that the guy from Botched? Oh, yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's that. So I didn't think that was a show at all. I thought that was a horrible show. But people were watching it, right? I'm doing a separate video on this, but it goes back to what I was talking about maybe a year ago where I talked about the Hiroshima Maidens. Remember when we talked about that? And that was, which again, this goes back to that idea of American exceptionalism and how we will put sprinkles and roses over terrible things. So I'm already doing a separate video on it, but just to sum it up again, I'll even pull up a picture real quick. Maidens. Hold on, give me 1 sec. All right. All right. That's the one I want. Okay, so I'll keep this. All right, so to sum this up really quick, and then I need to kind of wind this live down. So with the Hiroshima Maidens, so like I said before, back in the day, that happened with World War II. You know, we dropped the atomic bomb. It hits Hiroshima. It hits Nagasaki. One of the things we were not taught in school is that for years, the U.S. media was mandated by the federal government to not really talk about the atrocities that took place as a result of the atomic bomb. They were only allowed to talk about the physical damage. They weren't allowed to talk about the radiation sickness. They weren't allowed to talk about the cancer that came. They weren't allowed to talk about all the people whose skin literally melted off. They weren't allowed to talk about all the people who died as a result of the radiation for years and years to come. And so it wasn't until about 1955 where Americans even had an idea of just how bad it really was. It was taught to us as American victory. Look how strong our bombs are. We dropped these 2 big bombs and Japan knew they had to surrender. And that's how we're taught about Hiroshima. So anyway, there was a group called the Hiroshima Maidens. And this was people who survived the blast but were disfigured, right? Something went down. And so there were 25 women who were selected to be brought to the United States to get reconstructive surgery. Right. And this was going to be something to kind of paint the U.S. as we're good people. Yeah, we blew you up, but look, we can fix you back too. Right. And so some real like death becomes her type stuff. And so they do all these plastic surgeries and stuff on these women. One dies during their operation, but the other 24 survive. And so there's also a TV show called This Is Your Life. And so This Is Your Life is a TV show where they actually bring one of the Hiroshima Maidens on the show. Right. Because this is a way to kind of paint the idea of, oh, look how great we are and how much we can save everybody. So this is a screenshot from the actual show, right? As you can see. And so what ends up becoming crazier is they actually bring the pilot of one of the bombers that dropped the big bomb to the show. So you have this girl, well, she's a woman, this woman who's going through all this corrective surgery because I believe that she was a child when everything happened. She gets all the corrective surgery and everything. She's married, has her husband there. Her family wasn't told what she was coming on this show for. Nobody knew. She didn't quite have an idea what was really happening. And so they bring her on this show. They bring out, again, the guy who dropped the bomb that disfigured her and then tried to paint this off as, look how we helped her life. And we made her so great. And she's thankful because that's the American way, because we're just such a lovely country. So even though I dropped this bomb that killed 250,000 people immediately, we can have a conversation about forgiveness, right? Wild. It's a part of one of my new series I'm doing for the channel because I figured I need to start updating the channel and doing some new things. So, we have In the News, which is back, and then some other stuff that I've decided to start adding. So I'm going to go on that bit more in depth when that video is ready. But yeah, so we've always had some nonsense on TV. right? Just imagine that you blow up all these people, and then because you gave them some corrective surgery, you're gonna bring out the pilot that is the reason behind all this, and then force the person to try to forgive them on national TV so that you can make Americans feel better about what they just found out about what they actually did to the Japanese. This is why it's important that we still know history. And there's a reason why Orange Man and crew are constantly always trying to strip everything out of the museums and everything else. Because when you really dig into history, this is one effed up country and has always been. And it wasn't just effed up to black folks. It was effed up to everybody. Even white folks are collateral to the nonsense here. So that's that. All right, I'll do a few more questions, then we're going to call it a night. Somebody said, nothing fascist to see here, LOL. Just the cover up of the atrocities, the distortion of historical education. Exactly. Have you heard Snoop Dogg's Lightyear rant? No, Snoop is on punishment with me anyway. I ain't paying him no attention. So, no. Snoop is still in the ain't ish list with me right now. All right. Let's see. Do you remember Extreme Makeover? Is that now that's the one with the house? Like where they redo the people's house? I don't know. Wait, no. Extreme, let me. I don't know if I didn't watch a lot of these shows. Extreme Makeover. Oh shoot, I didn't talk about the Car Factory. Thank you, Apple. God dang it. Hold on, let me do this Extreme Makeover and come back to that factory real quick. I forgot to. Thank you for that. Thought I covered everything. Extreme Makeover. I know Home Edition. Also, it is the homes. Okay, so I do remember that. Really quick. I'm so glad you reminded me. I totally forgot. Thank you for that. Do I even have the link I still was going to use? Oh, hell. I deleted it. All right, let me pull up my history here. I'll just pull it back up. 1 sec. Where is the story I was looking at? Oh, okay. So what I'll do, because I have the person I want to highlight here. Okay, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna just skip the article and just go straight to the other piece. All right, so to get to this Hyundai situation, because I totally forgot. Thank you for that, again, by the way. All right, this is Tori Branham, right? Tori lives in Georgia. Tori heard that there was a Hyundai plant in the state that was opening. So Tori heard and understood and thought that the plant was only bringing South Koreans to give them all the jobs, because she was under the impression that they were taking American jobs, because that's what all the immigrants do, according to her, right? And so she summons ICE. ICE goes and they do a raid, and they detain 475 South Korean people that were there on visa and detain them. They put some of the people in chains, so on and so forth. She goes on social media and brags about it because, hey, she's also running for office, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene's got a new cousin that's gonna, well, they're not cousins, but you got another Marjorie Taylor Greene light type candidate, right? Now, here are the real logistics behind this factory. In the United States, a lot of times when a company is opening a new location, or when it comes to international anything, a lot of times they will bring people that are already on their team as what you call that transition team, right? They are going to help to transition, to do everything to make sure that when that plant is ready to open, all will be well, right? And so that's what we ended up having, right? And so there was one other thing I was going to say. What was this 28,500? I want to say that the plant was going to be either 8,500 new jobs or 28,500. I can't remember. Whatever it is, it was going to be some jobs. But anyway, that's all I have to say. So she heard that they were only hiring South Koreans. She spreads all this rhetoric on the internet. Other people latch onto it, and now it's this big hoopla that, hey, the South Koreans are in there opening these plants and doing these things. When in reality, the people that were there were on short-term B1 visas to help set up the factory and train the people who would have been hired to work there in this little town. So instead, because she called ICE and they had to detain all these different people and everything else, of course, now here's the bad press. South Korea is pissed off. They likely might snatch this plant away, which again, there goes the jobs for the people that were actually there. Because again, all those South Koreans that were there temporarily. They weren't going to be staying there long term. And what's very interesting is this happens all the time with a lot of corporations when they come to your city. So like even here, like in the DMV, when Amazon came to the DMV, a lot of the really, 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 really good jobs, right, were not even for the people that were already there. It was Amazon just brought their people over and landed them in there and set them up. But you didn't see people going in on Amazon about taking all the good jobs. None of that was a thing. They just saw people that were from South Korea and figured, oh, these people are still in our jobs. When in reality, they were setting up the factory so that they could put it in the hands of the people and the residents of that area so that they could have jobs. But she just burned that bridge. So good luck to that. And I think the other thing, that's what the 28,500 is. And I think what people need to think about, because again, everybody's bragging about it. We forgot we have 28,500 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea, right? So again, if there happens to be some kind of crazy South Korean extremist nationalist that's pissed off about this story, you've now indirectly, to an extent, placed the lives of U.S. citizens living in South Korea in danger. That's just the military. We're not talking about even like how Marcel, who was in our chat earlier, said he's just in town visiting. That burns the bridges. And seeing that South Korea is one of our strongest allies, I don't know who would permit that kind of thing to happen. This just goes back to what I was saying, where again, the United States is finding a way to burn their bridges with everybody that we're in commerce with, which to me is so stupid. Like you burn the bridge with South Korea, you burn the bridge with China. I don't care what people want to say about China. The United States and China have a very interdependent relationship, but the tides are starting to shift because all the tariff stuff where China is finding its revenue sources in other countries. So eventually, if China can get their way, they won't even need us after a while. And understand the U.S. will be down very bad by then, and you will expect to see every Walmart close after that, right? And so this idea of constantly painting everybody who is not a United States citizen as being the enemy, even to the point where people who are in their own country, minding their own country's business, but doing commerce with the United States, and we as Americans are benefiting from it, even painting those people to be the enemy is a problem, right? And so these tariffs that Orange Man is so gung-ho about are not good things. This is why all those farmers are struggling and everything's closing. This is why all the restaurants and stuff are shutting down. This is why the prices on everything are going up, and they have no real way to justify and make this make sense. So they just lie to you and continue to say, oh, everything's going great. This is great. This is the best economy, blah, 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 right? That's where we're at. And so again, that conversation and the theme for tonight, discernment. That woman single-handedly probably just blew a multi-million-dollar deal that would have helped the economy in that region with that factory. Because if I was somebody who was in charge over in South Korea, I'd say my people aren't safe here. I don't want our money over there. We'll open this plant somewhere else, right? So there's that. But it's also at the same time, and I'll say for that community, they're not a very politically active community, and I've seen how they tend to vote. And again, people signed up for the foolery, right? Now you collateral to it because they thought it was going to be for somebody else. Like, I need people to discernment. That's our word for tonight. On the last live, the word was community. This live, it's discernment. You got to have some discernment about how this stuff works. Otherwise, you are definitely going to feel it. South Korea is not happy at all about that. And this is the worst administration to be with right now because Orange Man don't care. What y'all gonna do about it? That's how he is. And again, remember, we have troops stationed right on the DMZ border, right there, right over there, Camp Casey and everything. So it's like some of the decisions that are made affect other people, and folks tend to always just move with invincibility in this country, and that's the downside, right? Get it together. Somebody said extreme makeover was harmful too. They left families with those high electric bills, adding all that crap to the house. Yeah, and then property taxes went up, right? And people couldn't afford them houses. Crazy. Let's see. Somebody said another Rambo Barbie. I don't understand why people have the obsession with it. If I hold my gun, it means I'm more American. Like, you look crazy. And then these people they're not tough. They're not, right? These people cannot fight anything scary. We saw who y'all sent out on January 6th. Y'all couldn't even get over the wall. Stairs are right there. They're gonna climb the wall and still fall and break their back, right? Somebody said the empire is in a desperate state. Desperate times call for desperate/stupid measures. Yeah, that's the United States. Like I said before, I think people in the United States have to be okay with the idea of the United States not being number one at everything, because we're already not anyway. We just live under the delusion that we still are. But understand, China's GDP, it's at some point will surpass ours. It's going to happen. It's just the way that things are set up. It's going to happen. And right now, as we are actively burning all of our bridges in business internationally, our GDP, we just saw the jobs report. What was that, 22,000 jobs in September or August? August. 22,000 jobs in August. 22,000. and there will probably be a revision later down the line. And in all reality, we probably lost some jobs, but we know Orange Man also fired some people from that entire office. So, but again, if we're talking about this time last year, normally in the summer, we normally get a surge in job creation. We normally get somewhere between 125 and 330,000 jobs in the summer months, mainly because we also incorporate teen employment and everything else like that. And people that come home from college and get summer jobs if they didn't do an internship. 22,000. We're on a downward trend, folks. Unemployment is up. In the Black community, it's up to what almost, it's getting close to 8%. Okay. All right. Your thoughts on, hey, I'm not, everyone, let me go to bed. Let me see. Umar Johnson losing that school. Discernment, folks. That school was never coming. All right. And as far as diaspora wars, I don't participate in that. I think every group has their claim for what it is they want to fight for. My thing here in the United States is for people who have a lineage that is not tied to the United States but look like us. Please have a respect for the Black plight here in the same way that I have a respect for your journey for wherever you came from, and so on and so forth. I want everybody to win. So like if Ghana decides that they want to get reparations from the UK, I support them. I want them to get theirs. If Haiti decides they want reparations from France, I support them. So in that same way, don't get in the way of Black folks here wanting reparations for what they have. Like a lot of the diaspora wars, I think, live on the internet and don't really live outside of these spaces. And so there are things amongst the different groups that we do differ on and that we're going to move differently on. But I think a lot of the energy has been placed in the hands of the wrong people that are leading these conversations, and it's causing more chaos, which is not good. And at the end of the day, we're still the global majority. And when we've decided to compartmentalize ourselves in so many different ways where, you know, now in this really chaotic time where globally, this is the time where folks kind of need to start locking in. And it's not saying locking in and being under one umbrella and we're all one happy family, but at least locking in and understanding that there's leverage to be had with all these different groups. Everybody's deciding to kind of divide themselves, which is at the worst time. So, you know, it's what it is. So I don't do diaspora wars at all. Let's see. Yep. So I'm gonna call it night. Somebody said the U.S. is gonna find themselves isolated. Yeah, they're getting there, and isolation isn't always a good thing because hey, as all these other countries develop and come up with new medical advancements and stuff, and who knows, one of these other countries may have a cure for cancer or Alzheimer's and all that stuff, and we've decimated our science, right? And we've cut the partnerships. They might be like, well, we cured that 10 years ago, but y'all didn't want our help, so good luck over here. So yeah. Here we go. Let's see. Anyway, this has been really cool. Like I said, I'm going to post the selections for the book club on Wednesday for you guys to vote on. The book club picks back up on Monday, the 29th. Okay. So it's going to be a quick turnaround. I really wanted to enjoy what was left of my summer, so I didn't lock the book club in right away. So there's that. I owe you guys the comedically hard-headed episode. I will give a heads up that it's a little bit sadder, but it will still be funny. But again, I'm just telling you what happens, and sometimes things happen. So be ready for that. That should come out at the end of the week, if not Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And yeah, I'm trying to finish my other pre-made content for the channel. And I'm on a few different podcasts this upcoming week. I'm on the, let me see, I got to make sure I get this name right. There's a podcast that I'm on the 15th. It is called, let's see. Also on my website, anytime I appear on somebody's show, I always post it in my press tab on the page. For those who have not seen the website, because I don't think people realize I have a website. Let me just type it in real quick so you guys can see where everything is at. Really quick here, and then we can call it a night. Let me open it on another page. That way, because sometimes people are like, oh, where can we watch this or where can we watch that? Everything I do, I try to put in more than one place just in case YouTube gets me out of here. You can always find me here. So in the event I ever disappear from YouTube, you can always go to my website to see what I'm doing. And so if you go to the top of my website, everything is there, right? So it's music, it's listen for those who like my music, all that stuff is there, all the different playlists that I make and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? The podcast, you can also find on the website. And like I said, on the website is, I think, 3 or 4 episodes ahead of the YouTube channel when it comes to the podcast. So if you've only been listening to the Comedically Hard-Headed podcast on the YouTube channel, you can go to the website and probably see 3 or 4 episodes that are ahead. Like I think on the YouTube channel, we stopped at the dry waffles, but the website has these other 3 that we're on already, right? So there's that. Again, press, anything that I've done that's from pullovers, I can hit you, the blah, blah, blah. Little pictures and stuff, right? I look good in this picture, right? No, I was kidding. So any stuff I've done, and again, any show that I've appeared on is all here, right? Anybody's podcast that I've done over time, it's all right here. So if there's a day where you're bored and you want to just dig through all the stuff, it's all right there. The link to the YouTube channel. And then there's more, right? The book club, the reading list. It even has a countdown. It's telling you when we're doing the book club, right? I haven't picked a selection. By the way, check out this book. She's an excellent author. I'm going to make this one of the selections for people to vote on, right? The book club has the books that we've read, but also books that I either recommend and everything else like that. So yeah, it's all the different stuff that we've covered. What else is on here? Bookings, if anybody's trying to book me for like public speaking or shows, blah, blah, blah. Behind the scenes. So stuff how I've done stuff with the movie, blah, 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 blah. Again, I used to work for a magazine. So articles to some of the stuff that I've done, right? Different things here. Like I interviewed Nelson George one time. That's the director of a bunch of stuff like the Ballerina Tell documentary. The charities that I support specifically, I always talk about Joyful Hands and Guns Down Friday. By the way, Joyful Hands is doing a banquet. So for those who are in DC, if you have an interest in going, I am emceeing along with Sunny in the City that you may know from the radio. That banquet is in October. If you have an interest in going, let me know. I can tell you how much the tickets and stuff are. So there's that. I'm still getting the merch together, so I'm not even about to share that because the merch is not really together like that. But all right, so that's that. So yes, there's a whole website with everything on it. All right. And it's been there since I did a soft launch. I never really quite launched it hard until I dropped the 2 albums. So there's that. I think that is everything, folks. I appreciate y'all for hanging with me, and I appreciate y'all for waiting like a month while I was trying to milk what was left of summer. And yeah, we'll see you on the next live. Like I said, stay safe, stay sane, mind your business so that you can age well. And remember, our word for tonight was discernment. So take it with you into the world this week. All right, folks. Good night. See you later.